It is April Fool's, but we're all business tonight. Welcome to the Wise Guys. Dave McCann, Blaine Fowler. Our special guest we'll introduce in just a second. The #1 BYU Sports global live stream in the entire, global, it's the whole world.
Yeah.
And we welcome everybody into our stream for our special night.
Yeah, and we're not going to pull any April Fool's jokes on you. So those that read, people were asking about this article today that Kalani's stepping down and Andy Reid's coming back.
Yeah, we're not even messing with that stuff.
No, that is not true, and it is April 1st, so just keep that in mind. But we're not going to pull any April Fool's jokes on you today. We got a great show for you tonight. Make sure you follow us on YouTube. We'll put the link in the chat here soon. Hit the subscribe button. It's free. We're also live on Facebook, Twitch, and at ysguys.com, which is the hub for everything, ysguys.com. Somebody said to me the other day, I looked, I couldn't find it, and I said, how'd you spell it? And they said W-I-S-E.
Yeah, we're not smart. It's the letter Y.
It's ysguys.com. Oh, so now they've got
we thought you guys were smarter than that. It's like, no, we're just so...
Yeah, but at ysguys.com, if you subscribe there, then you're going to get a weekly email that will send you highlights of what's gone on. You can click on links there. It'll just keep you in the loop on everything that's going on with the show and with what we've got out there. So make sure you subscribe both at YouTube and at ysguys.com. And no, it's not WISEguys.com. It's YSGUYS.com.
All right, so here's what we got tonight. Football spring practice is over. The countdown to the season is officially on, so we're going to dive into that tonight. Sports and spirituality, a popular speaker, author, podcast host, John Bytheway, is here tonight.
We've been talking about this for a long time, so I'm excited to have John in studio with us, which is going to be pretty great. So, college hoops. Mike Littlewood's going to join us in just a little bit. He just returned from officiating in the NCAA tournament.
We got tough questions to him.
Oh, we got some questions for him about officiating in the tournament. Are they supposed to swallow their whistles when they're in the tournament?
Yeah. Why was it all of a sudden so physical?
It seems like it's always that way. Is it purposeful? Do they do that because that's what they want to do?
Yeah, so we're getting behind the whistle.
Yeah, we're gonna ask about how that all goes.
Our first guest has written scores of books. He's been a popular speaker among Latter-day Saints for decades. Co-hosts the Follow Him podcast with Hank Smith, a BYU grad, loves BYU sports. It's a pleasure to welcome to the Wise Guys the great John Bytheway. Thank you for being here. We've been counting down to this night.
Well, when I'm driving down, I realized, this is April Fool's Day. Now I know why you got me.
Who can we get for a fool? Nothing related to that whatsoever.
What we do have is some video showing BYU's next potential quarterback.
Yeah.
This video was taken just moments before tonight's show. Out there in the drive of our private location, tossing the football with Blaine Fowler.
I wanted to do. I told you when you first invited me, can I throw the football with Blaine? I just want to say I threw with an NCAA college quarterback.
What about the form here, Blaine?
I wish the weather was good.
Live action shots of John Bytheway getting loose.
It's a little bit loose and wide with the takeaway. I'd like to see him come right from. See where he has it when he has it chested. I'd like to see him come straight back to the ear and not waste quite so much motion. Other than that, the release is really good. Coming off see how he rotates that hand over like this, a la Steve Young. He rotates it over. The last thing that's supposed to come off the football with a quarterback that throws it with good rotation is your index fingers. So you come off, you snap your hand down, your index finger's the last thing that comes off the ball, and that's exactly what happens with John. That's why he had good rotation on the ball.
Did you get all that?
See the coaching I'm getting here? This is incredible.
You're a natural.
I'm coming back.
And here's what we don't know. We need to get some targets and stuff if we're going to really recruit him. I was watching an old interview with Mike Leach the other day, and they asked him to rate the characteristics that he looks for in quarterbacks when he's recruiting. What do you guys think the #1 thing was? It was interesting to me because I didn't think
a lot of people would say size.
Yeah, size, arm strength.
Yeah.
He goes, no, accuracy. 100%, not even close. #1, accuracy. He goes, because you can't teach it. You can hone it a little bit. But he goes, great quarterbacks when they're in 3rd or 4th grade are the ones that go out front, pick up a snowball and say, I'm going to hit the stop sign, and they hit it. Or let's hit the tree. Let's have a contest hitting the tree. And he says, because accuracy, there's just so little you can do to make it better. And he said, so that's the #1 thing. And #2 after that was leadership and intelligence. Arm strength was like 6th down the list. And he goes, if arm strength was important, then the greatest player in the history of the game would not be Tom Brady. Steve Young would not be a Hall of Famer. And he just went over and over and over again, named like 7 great quarterbacks. And he goes, but let me tell you something all 7 of those guys had. Tremendous accuracy. So that's his number one thing.
Throw it to the right guys.
So, and I think with John's form, he'd be pretty accurate.
We all grew up with aspirations of being, superstars in athletics. You are no different from all of us, but you also want to be a fighter pilot.
Yeah.
And then your eyes went south a little bit, which when we talk about accuracy, fighter pilots also have to be accurate. And then that didn't work out, but that didn't keep you from the cockpit.
Yeah, that's right. I could not believe this happened, but there was a point with Deseret Book, and I jokingly call him Desperate Book. I'm going to get a text from Sherry, but because they publish my stuff. But I love airplanes and aviation and stuff, and I didn't write them, I just compiled a couple of books with stories of Latter-day Saint pilots, like harrowing stories where their faith helped them or where that teaches a principle. And one of these F-16 pilots, Derek O'Malley, he wrote me an email, and I'd like to have a chapter. And I emailed him back, and I said, yeah, P.S., let me know if you ever have an empty back seat. And he's like, we can do that.
Wow.
I was like, what?
I thought you had to have like an act of Congress or something.
It was like that, because he said, here's what you need: a letter from your publisher, what the book's about.
Yeah.
You need a letter from to the Air Force, a letter from you to the Air Force about what you intend to do. And he said, you kind of need someone on the inside to push it. That's me.
There you go.
So 2008, June, Las Vegas, Nellis Air Force Base. About noon, 104 degrees on the flight line.
It was a cool day.
Wow. Yeah.
104.
Took off in an F-16.
So describe the feeling of takeoff.
Takeoff was like California Adventure, like the one.
Okay,
what's the
I'm
one
in
called?
trouble right there. I'm done right there because that's a problem for me.
Yeah, that would be a problem.
The one that they have that is instead of going up,
it just shoots you like
acceleration coaster.
That's that thing over in California Adventure.
Yeah. And he was awesome because he said, I don't usually get to do this, but let's have a prayer. So we did, right? And so we're just waiting to roll onto the runway, and he says, okay, arm your ejection chair. Can you imagine how cool that felt to go armed?
Nice.
And then he pulls it on and he said, oh man, you're going to love this. And we did this, full afterburner takeoff.
Oh, wow.
And I was laughing. And then I was fine. And then he said, let me show you the roll rate of the F-16. He said, we can roll 540 degrees in 1 second. And then he just did it. We went, a rotation and a half. And then he went back again. And I thought I'd be fine, because I took flying lessons in Provo. I soloed,
Okay.
I'm used to the G's, no big deal. But the whole planet spinning around, I was like, can you hold it straight and level for a minute? And
Did you lose it?
I did. He gave me a banana. I said, I wasn't going to eat anything. He said, have a banana. I said, why a banana? He said, it tastes the same coming up as going down.
Oh, man.
But he had over 100 missiles fired at him in Iraq, this guy.
Wow.
He talks about, it's a sad story. He was searching for a downed F-18 pilot. He was an F-16 pilot. But this kid, turns out, he didn't know it at the time, was actually another BYU graduate.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That died, Nathan White. And that they never found him. So,
wow.
What's the name of I was going through all of the books. How many books now have you published? 17?
No, more than
it's
50
like
18,
something.
20?
It's around.
I just looked at the Amazon list, and they're actively selling 17 right now. Actively selling 17.
Yeah, there's a lot that are out of print. There's about 50, but some of them are some of them are revised ones. So is that 2 or is that 1?
What's the title of the book? Where the one that the pilot that took you up?
Supersonic Saints.
Supersonic Saints
2. It's the second one.
And that one's still active on Amazon. I saw that there.
So when you're doing Tom Cruise up there,
Yeah.
zipping across the sky, what are you thinking?
I just couldn't believe it. I look back, out of this beautiful bubble canopy, and I can see the wings, and I'm like, I'm in an F-16. I'm in an F-16. He said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to go really fast, really low. And just without warning, he inverted us, and then we dived down.
Oh gosh!
And we're zipping along about 150 feet off. I feel
like I'm going to throw up if you keep talking about this.
I do it again. So
it was
fast.
Awesome.
It was so great.
Wow. And you had this dream that maybe you'd be a fighter pilot or a great athlete. As you were experiencing this, did you think I could have done this? Or did you think, oh man, there's just no way?
It was harder than I thought.
Really?
The inner ear stuff Because after I threw up the third time,
Oh man.
I was like, I think I'm, can you keep it straight and level? And he did. And he said, just listen, you're going to throw up. I've taken up about 50 people. All but 3 of them have thrown up. So you probably will just kind of plan on it. But I didn't think I would.
You're watching Top Gun Maverick, and you've been there and done that without the soundtrack. Mm-hmm. Does the soundtrack really enhance the experience?
Yeah. It was fun to watch that because the first one was actors and special effects.
Yeah.
And the second one, they were in the back seat, and they made it look like Tom was flying it.
Yeah.
But the forces on their faces was real. And I thought that was...
The crazy thing is Tom could fly it if they would have let him. And he has, I don't know what he has some type of...
He has a P-51. He flew up at the end with that.
Yeah, he's got... And he would be... I saw him doing an interview and say, I'm capable of fly that equipment, but the Air Force won't let you fly something of that.
By the way, let's dive into the meat of this interview.
Yeah, for sure.
With your last name and the uniqueness of by the way.
Right.
By the way, I've known no other person with that last name. There's some McCanns all over the place. There aren't many by the ways. Where does this come from?
It's a funny story. I was down in San Antonio many years ago at the Riverwalk Mall, and they had a kiosk in the middle of the mall that said Family Name Histories.
Yeah.
This is probably pre-internet. This is like the 90s, and maybe it was new. But I was like looking in their binder. They had By the Way printed out. So for $25, they printed out for me, and it said, By the Way is a location name that means dweller by the road.
Wow.
$25 for that, right? And they said there's other names like At the Well, At the Water. They took out the word the and became At Well, At Water, By Water. Like
Ben Bywater.
So that's weird.
As
soon as you said that, I'm like, are you? I just was with Ben Saturday. Are you related to Ben in some way? Is his name?
Yeah, he was
morphed?
by the water, and we were by the way.
We were by the way.
So he was fishing, we were homeless, we were by the way. But the by the ways never took out the. So those Bywater, great family, man.
Yeah. Hopefully,
Isn't it cool that they left the in? Because you know what, that your name stands out.
Gave me a built-in joke.
If you're going to be a writer and you're going to teach and do all of these things, you want to name this memorable. I don't know any. As soon as somebody says, "By the way," I think of you every time.
Well,
every time.
I was holding my scriptures once. You know how they emboss your name?
Yeah.
And my thumb had covered up John and by, and it said the way, and I thought, I'll take it. Jesus says, I am the way. I'm like, I am by the way. I'll take it.
BYU grad extraordinaire John By the Way is on Wise Guys tonight. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. If you have a question, hop on our live stream. You teach Book of Mormon and New Testament at the BYU Salt Lake Center. Used to teach here in Provo, and you taught a lot of our friends, including our BYU TV colleague David Nixon.
Yeah.
What kind of student was Nix?
Oh, no. We're going to get into this.
Oh, yeah. We're getting right in.
He was great. In fact, it was right when Bronco came in.
Yeah.
And I had some players before that. Sometimes they'd come, sometimes they wouldn't. And boy, it was fall of 2005. I've got a class. I've got Brett Denny, David Nixon, Mitch Payne, Chris Bolden was in that class.
Wow, yeah, I remember Chris.
Jimmy Balderson, Jackson Emery. It was an incredible class.
Yeah.
And those guys came on time. They made comments. They offered to give the prayer when I asked. And so I just became really a fan then. And so I was telling Dave that I'd always ask at the beginning of class, hey, any mission calls, any marriage, what's going on? Guy raises his hand, taps the kid in front of him, says, he's going to the Masters tournament next week. Like, what? And his name was Clay Ogden, and he had won the Utah Amateur.
Yeah.
And so he comes back, a couple of weeks later, who'd you tee off with? I think he said Ben Crenshaw.
Wow.
Like, no way.
Yeah.
Right in your class.
Yeah.
That's why.
Pretty fun.
Did you have Justin Enna?
Yeah.
In your class? So Justin, current linebackers coach. How is he in class? Because off the field, like I watch him now, off the field, he's just the kindest, most welcoming, warmest human you'll ever want to meet. I watch him on the field, not as a player, as a coach. He's pretty intense. How was he in the classroom?
He was awesome. I remember him. He sat down to my right, and this was in the Mazer building, that building that looks really Ivy League. You know?
Yeah, I tried to stay out of there.
Yeah, and he was. Was to me so interesting because he's this linebacker, but he's smiling, he's laughing, He's taking notes. I'm like, I love this kid, right? So I have good memories of Justin. I don't know if he even remembers me. I'll have to ask him.
Oh, yeah, I'll ask him. What I love about Justin, and it's fun that you've had all of these guys, is you always say you want guys that outside the white line are absolute gentlemen and kind and loving and all of that. And you want them to be able to cross that white line and just put on a completely different persona and be a mean, physical dude out there. And Justin Enna is the personification of that. Like, he's so good at that, and yet he's so kind off the field. Because you had a ton of athletes from multiple sports. What's your feeling about what it takes to compete at that level? Because you had some really good ones in your class. What is it about them that makes them special?
Man, I guess it's a focus and determination. I should have asked them that question more often, because those guys were getting good grades. They were good students, and that's kind of what won me over to these guys. I thought, man, because I knew some guys in high school that played football, and knew some guys at BYU that played, and these guys, I thought, I'm on their side, man. These guys are amazing. Yeah. And I was going to tell you too, David Nixon's sister Emily.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Then
Taysom Hill's wife.
Mary Taysom.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was fun. But I really and it's fun for me trying to raise 3 boys to be able to watch and say, hey, see that guy? He went on a mission. You know, it's that Trevin Nell. He went to Uruguay, where you're going, Timothy. My son just got called. You know, and my son Andrew went to Iceland, and when he got there, the sun came up at 11 and set at 4, I think. And then COVID hit, and he's in his apartment, and it's dark, cold, and windy. And Kalani was doing something with players that were writing like a page to missionaries that were out there.
Oh, yeah.
And they were posting those. So I was getting those and sending them to my son, who's also a fan, saying, thank you for doing that, you know.
That's awesome.
These guys have done this, and you can do this too.
One of your great sports books you wrote is this one right here. It's called
right.
Golf, Lessons I Learned While Looking for My Ball. And you can find it on the, where can we find that? Well, it's an ebook now.
Yeah, the print one, it's out of print, the hard copy, but they have it as on Deseret Bookshelf. That's their app.
Deseret Bookshelf.
And that was fun.
And by the way, John signed this.
Yeah.
Is that the coolest signature you've ever seen?
It's like doctor. You could have been Dr.
No,
Bytheway.
but it's very, I don't know the word for it.
I was trying to be fluid, like throwing the football.
It's a combination of artistic and flamboyant all at the same time.
Fantastic.
Which I like.
So why golf?
Well, I really started playing golf probably after I graduated. I mean, I played, but I really bought some clubs, and I just think golf has so many life lessons in it. You know, there's a time when you want power, and there's a time when it is just finesse. When you're putting, you know, and you've got to think about chipping and stuff like that, and anybody can make a shot that a pro would envy. And I think that's pretty cool about golf.
Yeah, there's that one shot every round, right, where you're just miserable.
Now I'm coming back.
I feel like every round, and Dave and I have played quite a bit together, there's a point in that round where I'm going to, like, that's it. I'm done. This is a waste. I'm throwing the clubs away. I'm never playing again. But one shot can change all of that, where you just go, you know what, maybe with a little more practice, if I just would play more often.
Well, I love the whole concept of how it relates to life, meaning you're playing a par 4. If you stay in the fairway, stay within the rules of the game, avoid the rough and avoid the sand, there's a really good chance that you're going to get where you need to go and putt in for a 4, if par's the 4, or a bogey or whatever. But the way life goes is we're in the rough, and then we stay in the rough, and then we make it worse while we're in the rough, and we look over there and we go, what would life be like to be out in the fairway where you're actually supposed to be? And, for guys who spend a lot of time in the rough, the fairway is where you want to be. And in life, that's where you want to be.
And sometimes you're not. But I love the old saying that 3 bad shots, 1 good shot, still make par. And that's why I think golf can be like life, you know?
Is there just a one major lesson in this book? You don't have to do a whole book review, or there are multiple lessons in here. And if it's interesting to ask the writer, is there a favorite lesson from this book on golf that you take away and go, you know, this is my most favorite thing that I put in this book?
There is. And the funny thing is, I actually use this golf lesson when I teach the Sermon on the Mount. Because the very last verse in the Sermon on the Mount, take no thought for tomorrow. Tomorrow will take thought for things of itself. And at first I was like, you're not supposed to think about tomorrow? Because in present Monson say the past is gone, learn from it, and prepare for the future. Yeah. And all of the other Bible translations don't use the word thought. Take no thought for tomorrow. They say don't worry about tomorrow. And worry is, in the footnote, anxious concern. So it says under thought, anxious concern. So really it's don't worry about tomorrow. You can think about tomorrow, but you don't worry about it. And one of the things that fascinates me about sports and talking to you guys is performance anxiety. And how you make free throws when everybody, like an away game, and how you get into thinking, not worrying, not apprehensive. I mean, if the only thing that matters in golf is the next shot, that's the quote I was going to say. The only thing that matters in golf, the next shot. That to me is Matthew 7:34. Take no thought for tomorrow, just what am I going to do today? We even have a hymn about that. Today, work while you may, whatever it is. And regret is thinking about the past. Worry is maybe worried, oh, God, man, I have a sand trap coming up. Oh, I've got that dog leg coming up. Instead, what do I do right now? And you know Craig Manning, have you ever had him on the show?
We haven't had him on. We know Craig.
Yeah, the sports psychologist. He did this whole paragraph in his book. I brought it, The Fearless Mind, about the difference between thinking and worrying, which I thought was fascinating. Thinking is what do I do right now? And worrying is getting you off right now. Isn't that a great lesson for golf? The only thing that matters, the next shot.
Isn't it the same for life?
Yeah.
What really matters is the decision you're about to make.
Mm-hmm. And regret is a waste of energy, right? You repent, you get back on the covenant path if you need to. Covenant path has lots of off-ramps, but it has on-ramps. Get back on. What am I going to do today? The next shot.
You can control. You're standing over the ball, and this is what I can control.
That's the only moment you can control.
Right, and it's interesting because last week we had Dave Rose and his son on with us, Garrett, and we asked Garrett what the best advice that Dave ever gave him was, and he said, "My dad always told us the whole time I was growing up," and then Garrett went through significant trials. Focus on the things you can control right now, and do the best you can at that. And don't worry about the rest. And Dave said that's just been a theme that he's lived by throughout his life and through his coaching career. That let's focus on what we can control, and if we stay focused on that, then we'll have success. The success will come, and so that is that same mindset. Yeah. Here's the shot. Make the shot. I'm not going to worry about whether or not if I hit it in the sand, am I going to be able to get up and down? If I hit it on the green, I'm going to focus on what do I need to do to execute the shot right now.
And that's all you have control over right now.
Right now. Yeah, I love that.
So it's a great lesson, and we sing that hymn about that. There is no tomorrow, there's only today. But I think they changed it to prepare for tomorrow by working today or something. But it had that idea of today, and it's have I done any good in the world today? What can I do today? So that's probably my favorite golf lesson.
Isn't there a scripture too that course of the Lord is one eternal round? I've been on some eternal rounds. Yeah. And I know what that's like. And it's like, this is never going to end. This round is never going to end.
It's like the last page of the book. And Paul says, I have finished my course, right?
Yeah.
So there you go.
John Bytheway is our guest on The Wise Guys. This interview is the result of John watching our show and commenting on the live stream. So all of you are potential guests, and there's a lot of great comments we'll try to get to here in just a moment.
Including Glenn, who's in the Philippines.
Yeah. Good to have you, Glenn.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where I served. Yeah.
Yep. And then,
John Crowder, love John B. And we raised our kids on Youth Talks off of CDs in the car while driving on long vacation trips. How about that?
They're kind of a captive audience when they're in the car.
And Doug's even listening on the front runner, heading to Layton up north living. He says, I love John by the way. Tell him thanks for all the good he does. Faith and fun together.
So nice.
Years ago, I was a sportscaster in Vegas, and I came in my ward on one Sunday, and an old codger wanted to talk to me, and we sat down, and he went off about how sports was of the devil and everything was designed to end on Sunday, and all he could see was everything that was wrong with that, and asked me how I could choose this lifestyle of promoting it. And I was listening to him, and he was a little out of touch on some things, and he had some points, but my mind went back to all those who don't have religion and how a void sports fills in their life, whether it's NASCAR or NFL or soccer or whatever. And I'm thinking there has to be a happy medium, because there's so many positives that come from sports, and there's so many things that are important that are spiritual. So how do they blend together? How do you see sports and spirituality blending?
You know, I see so many life lessons from sports that is one of the reasons I love to watch. And my wife loves to go to plays at Hale Center or whatever. And I'm not fun to go to a play with, because I'm going to see those two fighting. They're going to be kissing by the end. I've got the plot all figured out.
You figured it out.
You know all of the...
Yeah, and in a football game, a baseball, you don't know. It's drama, it's adversity, it's everything right in front of you, and you get to watch it happen. And I love that. And so there's life lessons. I remember, and you remember, I think you called this game, Dave, BYU, Utah State at BYU.
Right. Blaine was off the Himalayas because Gary Scheide subbed in for him that night.
Oh, okay.
What?
So, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Was I in the Himalayas? Really?
It must have been somewhere.
I don't know where I was.
Or a doctor's convention.
Somewhere around the world.
Something like that.
Somewhere around the world.
Yeah.
So Jake starts. They get behind to Utah State. and
Riley Nelson comes in.
Yeah.
And he's got great hair. I remember that. And
He still does.
In,
He still does.
And he's just, I don't know, I guess, and you can tell us about this, Blaine. The whole team takes on the attitude, I guess, of the QB, because he comes in, and all of a sudden, they're looking like a different team. Drives him down the field twice.
Yeah.
I think, like, DeLuigi tipped the ball, and Matthews
Caught it. Yeah.
Caught it. And Mitch, or no, it was brother.
Marcus.
Marcus Matthews caught that. But after the game, when they interviewed Riley Nelson, I thought, man, I got to remember that. That was good. He said, here's my attitude. I have my toe on the sideline, my head in the game, and I'm physically prepared. And I was like, that is great advice. He knew exactly what was going on. Head in the game, ready to come in, helmet on, right? He comes in, takes over. And I thought, that's impressive, just to be ready. If you're prepared, you shall not fear, right? And that reminded me of that principle right there.
And it's interesting when you mentioned this, when a backup quarterback comes into a game, especially if it's a big game, and Utah State was always a big game, you know, it was a rivalry game. There's something that happens with the rest of the team where they're like, hey, let's rally around, guys. We got this guy. Like, let's take care of it. He's new in here. We all know what's going on. We all know what he can do. Let's rally around. Everybody raise their level just a little bit, and let's make it easy on this guy. There's just that mentality when a backup comes in, and that alone sometimes will jump start a team a little bit, or just everybody raise their level just a little bit. Collectively, that's raising it a big amount, and all of a sudden you're playing at a higher level. And there's just something about that when that happens. And when we're playing Michigan for the national championship, Robbie goes down, I go into the game. Robert and I and Trevor Maddich, they go, we got you, man. Like, don't worry. Like, we got you. Nobody's going to touch you. Except for on the first play, Robert let somebody through, and he smacked me.
Yeah.
And I went back to the huddle, I go, what? He goes, it's not going to happen ever again. Trevor's like, this time we really got you. But they just kept encouraging. All the receivers kept telling me how open they were. Hey, I'm wide open. I'm open on every play. Throw it to me. I'll catch it. But there is this lifting of the whole team. It's something that's unique in sports. When
so cool.
Somebody new comes in, everybody raises their level. And it doesn't matter what sport it is. Somebody goes down, all of a sudden the team plays better. What's going on with that? But it's a remarkable thing that happens in team sports.
There's so many other games I've watched. I mean, women's soccer.
Yeah.
BYU, University of North Carolina. I mean, I showed that last 10 minutes to my kids. Like, you want to see a lesson in enduring to the end, and it's not over till it's over? That was crazy.
Yeah, that was one of the great comebacks of all time.
It was great. Yeah. And there's something, great players, and we've talked about this before on the show. I want to get sports psychologists in here and talk about this. And with all the research you've done in every field, I'm sure this is something you've talked about, but the great ones, the bigger the moment, the more focused they are on the ball in front of them or the play that's going on right now. Tom Brady might throw 60% or 65% all game long, but in the last 2 drives, he goes 9 of 11. Why does he do that? You know what? All the great players raise their level. Michael Jordan, shooting 46% for the game, but down the stretch, he makes 5 of his last 6 shots. Why does that happen? with the great players, and it's because somehow they have this ability when everything's on the line, instead of getting worried, it makes them laser focused. And when they're laser focused, they execute at an even higher level if they're prepared. And over and over and over again, you see it in every sport.
Yeah.
See, and that kind of mental toughness, I want to take mental toughness lessons or something. I had another student named Justin Sua.
Yeah, in baseball.
Yeah, he's a pitcher. And he wrote a book called Mentally Tough Teens, you know, that I bought for my boys to learn how to be strong in that moment, you know. And I had a great young men's president. I was 12. I mean, our first time that we had our new young men's leader, his name was Brother Hardman. He took us all in the gym, said, show me your free throw routine. I don't know, I just shoot it. He said, no, you got to have a routine. And he made every one of us have a routine. Toe on the line, look at the rim, drop the shoulders, bounce, 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 right? And when we all did it, we're like, why are we doing this? He said, I want you to focus on what you are doing, not on what the crowd, the other players are saying, you know? And I thought, oh, okay, I get that life lesson here.
Yeah.
Focus on you. And man, can you imagine trying to shoot into the rock?
That'd be hard. Too many crazy things going on back there, that's for sure.
Hey, another a fella right along the lines you're talking about with your relationship. So there's Mike Naso and your involvement there, a tremendous story.
Oh, this is Mike. This was years after I had him in a class.
Yeah.
I saw him somewhere, and he's like, "Hey, brother, by the way, would you read my book?" I'm like, "Mike, you wrote a book?" He said, "Well, it's like a book on CD type of thing." I was like, "I'd love to." And okay, so quick story. He's a teenager coming home from youth conference. Good place where he's supposed to be. Family van is broadsided by a drunk driver. Mike's back is broken in 9 places, and he's trying to play high school football, right? I think it was 15. And the doctor's like, well, we got to operate him and fuse your back. And he's like, well, can I play football? And the doctor's like, well, no, you're going to lose some flexibility. And Mike and his whole family are like, there's got to be another way to do this. And the doctor, I mean, I don't know, maybe the doctor was kind of thinking this will convince him to go my way. He says, listen, you're going to have to strengthen your core to a point I've never asked anybody before. If you can come in here on the floor and do like 500 crunches in a row, maybe I'll approve you to try out for football. And boy, Mike heard that, and he focused. He went back to physical therapy. We all know that really means painful therapy sometimes. And I know what it says in the gym: no pain,
no gain.
No gain.
Yeah.
And all of my life, I've had a much better motto: no pain, good. But anyway, the one on the gym wall doesn't say that. So he worked and he worked. He wore this hard plastic brace over his torso, did all this stuff they asked him to do. But that stayed in his mind. If you can come in here and do 500 crunches. And he gets to this part in the book, and my jaw's dropping. He said, I called the doctor. I go into his office, and I got on the floor and start the timer. And I didn't do 500 crunches. I didn't do 600 or 700 or 800 crunches. He did 1,300 crunches in 28 minutes with a 10-pound weight on his chest.
Oh, my goodness.
And I got to that part, and I thought I couldn't do 13 crunches with a Slurpee. But he did 1,300 crunches, 28 minutes, 10-pound weight on his chest. And he gets to this point in the book, and I thought, Mike, that is a beautiful paragraph. I think I memorized it. He said, God put the fighter in me and helped me to accomplish what I did. God didn't do the sit-ups for me. I did them. Some have the faith to be healed. Others have the faith to be healed. I had the faith that God didn't want me to stop. That was worth the price of the book right there.
Yeah.
So that's a great paragraph. God didn't do the sit-ups. I had to do them.
Yeah.
And he went on a mission, wanted to go to another field, went to Chile, and he actually had a fall doing some service on his mission and had to finish his mission in Houston. Came back to BYU, walked on, and he says, I played in one game. It was Boise State at BYU. I had one tackle. He was on special teams. But he said, I mean, this made me emotional. I come into Lavelle Edwards Stadium and I see that spot. That's my spot where I got that tackle. You know? And lots of players, as we've mentioned, but nobody I respect more than Mike. So I called Jerem Jordan and Spencer Linton and said, you guys, you should do a movie on this.
Deep Blue.
And they did.
Yeah.
So go watch that, because I that to me was Great life lesson right there.
And people like Mike bring so much. So Mike's a big part of the program and was a great teammate. And even though he played in one game and had one tackle, he left an imprint on the program. And when he comes back around, he's a brother. Like he's just a brother for everybody that played with him, that played before and after him. And he's part of the fabric of BYU football and the culture because of who he is. You know, it's a great part about sports. You don't have to be a superstar to have an impact.
To have a life lesson like that. And it was pretty cool because I was speaking at Education Week one year in the Richards building somewhere. With Education Week, it's all about the adults. So the youth guys get a gym somewhere. And Mike was there, and I told half the story and said, Mike, come up and finish the story. And he did. So that was pretty cool.
That's pretty awesome. We got just a couple more minutes with John. By the way, Blaine's going to hit you up with 5 very important questions.
Yes.
Right, here we
go.
But
before we get to that one, my wife wanted to make sure we asked that you share your Barney Fife impression.
Yes, we heard about
So this is a question for Barney, not for you. How do you feel about BYU's second season in the Big 12 this fall?
I should never do this on camera. That's terrible.
Because it'll be
Most
recorded
listening,
forever.
right? Yeah, so I got to get into character for Barney Fife. Well, I think we're going to have a rowdy season. We're going to get after him this time. Make my whole body a weapon. It's my Barney Fife.
It's perfect.
All right, Diane, there you
It's
go.
absolutely perfect. So
That's
I did that in
fantastic.
front of a mirror once. I thought, don't ever do that.
Yeah,
in
you're
public.
spot on that. That was
most
fantastic.
of our followers will know exactly who Barney Fife is. And if you don't, you need to Google it. If you're younger, you need to Google Barney Fife.
That set the perfect tone.
You will see how perfect
Yeah.
it is.
They asked him in an episode once if he did any sports, and he was like, oh, yeah, all the contact sports, anything rough and tumble.
That is awesome. All right, that set the tone for what Blaine's going to hit you up with right
and
now.
we didn't give you these in advance, of course. We don't give anybody anything in advance,
No.
of course. But these we just need you to answer them, whatever comes to the top of your head. So your favorite sports movie?
I actually thought about this before I came down.
Because you've heard us ask it before.
There's one line in Cool Runnings that is so good. The best line in the whole movie, and I'm saying that so you'll ask me, what is it?
What is it?
What is it?
Doris is studying the turns before the last heat, right? Right.
They're doing this?
Exactly. And Coach Blitzer, John Candy, right, comes in and says, hey, Doris, we're going to go get something to eat. You want to join us? He says, no, thanks, Coach, because he's studying. I didn't think so. We'll bring him back something. And he says, hey, Coach. He said, yeah. Can I ask you a question? Shoot. He says, you don't have to answer if you don't want, but, I want you to. But if you can't, I understand. And Irv Blitzer, what a great name. Irv Blitzer, he says, you want to know why I cheated? Yes, I do, Coach. He said, well, it's a fair question. He said, it's simple, really. I had to win. Doris, I've made winning my whole life. And when you make winning your whole life, you got to keep on winning. Do you understand that? And Doris says, no, I don't understand, Coach. You had 2 gold medals. You had it all. Okay, best line in the whole movie. Doris, a gold medal is a wonderful thing. But if you're not enough without it, you'll never be enough with it.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. Cool Runnings.
Right?
By the way, that's our first Cool Runnings in 2 years.
Whenever I
asking
hear
that
the name
question.
Cool Runnings, immediately in my head it's like, Cool Runnings means peace be the journey.
Peace be the journey, right?
Look, I saw those guys, or at least a version of them, over at the Sochi Olympics.
Wow.
And when they came running in, the crowd's just into
goes
them.
nuts.
Oh,
Just because
Hey,
of that movie.
You know who reminds me of like that line is BYU's new tight end, Reiner Swanson.
Really?
He's the most chill dude off the field. I feel like anytime I walk up to him, I'm going to go, like, what are you going to do this afternoon? And he's going to go, oh, man, just give me a cool bus and some tasty waves and I'm home. Like, he is like Joe SoCal.
Hey, my wife's on the live stream. She says, thank you. Perfect.
Yes, there you go.
Perfect. All right.
Okay, second question. Favorite singer or band?
Toto.
Oh, really?
Oh, man.
Toto.
Rosanna? Are you kidding?
Rosanna.
Rosanna.
Do you like
Africa?
Africa better than Roseanne?
They're like tied for first.
Down in Africa.
Tied for first?
I have to tell you a funny story. I got a karaoke of Africa, and they had backup singers, and they misunderstood. I don't know, maybe it was from another country, but instead of saying, I bless the rains down in Africa, the backup singers were saying, I guess it rains down in Africa. We laughed so hard at that. Okay, sorry, next question.
Favorite breakfast cereal? You knew this one was coming.
Honey Nut Cheerios.
Honey Nut.
Okay, that's sort of a healthy cereal, but I'm going to get late because it does have sugar on it, so I'm okay with it. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Favorite BYU moment?
This could be sports.
When
It could be
you're at
anything.
school, it could be when you were teaching, it could be anything.
Well, I'm in sports mind right now. South end zone, Miami at BYU.
Oh, that was a nice night.
I watched that. That was the best game I've ever seen.
Did you run onto the field?
No.
You just stood and
I
watched?
should have. I didn't. I just stood there in disbelief. I thought that, because I remember when they came onto the field, how they were kind of taunting the crowd. And was Dwayne The Rock on that team?
Yeah, but he was hurt.
Yeah.
So did he not come to Provo? He wasn't in the
Russell
stadium.
Maryland was on that.
Didn't
and
play.
He's still affected by it. Russell Maryland is still it's still.
But The
drives him
Rock
crazy.
missed that. I think he came back later in the season, but he missed that.
Yeah,
game.
I called that game. That's how old I am.
Detmer was amazing.
Called it with Jay Munson for BYU TV for the replay, and whenever they do the summer football stuff, that's the one they play because that's the one we have the rights to, and it's crazy.
Yeah, Ty was next level.
I've never felt this stadium with that kind of electricity in it ever before or since.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
That's my one. I just thought
crazy,
that was
crazy.
the funnest football game I'd ever seen.
Okay, this is an important one for everybody that's listening out there. Your favorite church historical site to visit. I know you do tours in the summer, so
and you go to all of them.
yeah.
Can I go Jerusalem?
Sure.
Yeah, you can go overseas.
The South Steps coming out of the temple, I did not know the significance of it. I've studied it since. This is a high likelihood of where Jesus walked out after the Feast of Tabernacles, right? Saw the man born blind. Oh. Who did sin? His parents or this man that he was born blind? Jesus is like, neither one. And he says, go walk down to the pool of Siloam and wash. And you can sit on those steps, first century steps. And if you get a chance, just sit there.
Can you feel it?
Well, yeah, it's probably I'm there, I'm going, okay, Disneyland is not the happiest place on earth. This right here.
That's pretty
Or
cool.
the Garden Tomb, that's a really happy place.
Can you get a churro over there?
Yeah, you can. You
Oh,
can
really?
get shawarma, and you can get all sorts of stuff.
So on this continent, because you've got a church history tour again this summer, which has been sold out for a long time, and you hit all those spots. Is there a favorite?
Wow. Let me run through everything. Liberty Jail is really something. I think about section 121, 122, 123, and I tell my students, okay, those sections, that gorgeous, beautiful, shouldn't call it gorgeous, but profound writing came out of that prison. Yeah. And it's kind of an amazing
Do you take people back to the Sacred Grove? Mm-hmm. And do you introduce them to the apostle trees? Do they give you that map?
I haven't seen that.
Oh, so when you're back there this time, so that's where I grew up.
Got to go with you.
You ask whoever's in the temple, say, can you give us a map of the apostle trees? They've coordinated all the trees in the Sacred Grove area. There's 12 trees. Isn't that interesting? Mm-hmm. That coordinate back beyond the first vision date. So there's actually 12 trees that were there.
Like witnesses.
That were witnesses, and there's 12 of them. So they call them the apostle trees. It's pretty cool.
Gave me something to look forward to.
Yeah. What was your reaction when you got the text that the church had finally purchased the Kirtland Temple?
Is it April 1st? Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
I was so thrilled. And I was texting Sherry Dew, and I text back mostly about BYU Sports.
Right.
Sherry and I
She's been on this show. She's all about sports.
I know.
She's awesome.
She's so fun. I love Sherry. And she is every bit as delightful as she seems and brilliant. I love Sherry.
And I wish I could have seen her play basketball. She was an all-state basketball player in high school.
She tells.
Yeah.
There's another life lesson,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
So-
for her willing to share that, says something about her.
She came on and told,
So you get
fun.
the text. It's not April Fool's. And what do you think?
Well, first I went to the article because it said other things. I wanted to know what else. Red brick store? What? Mansion house? What? All that stuff. I just thought, hasten my work. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Look what's happening.
Yeah. We got a bonus question for you, too. So, General Conference for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints this weekend. And you'll have plenty on your Follow Him podcast about this, for sure. What do you look most forward to when conference comes around?
When I love to have my notes out and think, what do I add to my class? So I'm looking for lots of Book of Mormon references this year. And what can I add to my class that is so current? Because my students don't remember some of the people that I remember that we quote a lot in Institute class. And so I like to hear what are they giving me today for Book of Mormon and for my testimony of Christ here. So that's probably it.
Doug on the live stream says, John is the ultimate wise guy. 2 Y's in his last name. By the way, don't know of any who has more. How about that?
I'm going to capitalize those like wise guys is from now on.
I like that.
You and Hank Smith have a very popular Follow Him podcast. How can folks get it?
That is anywhere you get podcasts, you can find it. It's on YouTube too, or you can go to followhim.co. And if you go to followhim.co, not .com, but .co, that's great because they have transcripts, show notes. They have it in different languages. An incredible team. I just get to sit there and learn and nod thoughtfully. But incredible team. So go to followhim.co and all that stuff's on there.
Great.
Okay. Do you ever once remember watching Mike Littlewood referee a basketball game and booing him?
I never would boo Mike Littlewood.
I've called a lot of games that Mike Littlewood officiated. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
So.
No, he was very kind. I had a kid that was trying to pitch and brought him down. And Coach Littlewood showed us around. He was awesome. So
well, Mike's in our green room. Well, let's just say hello to him on your way out. The great
good.
John, by the way, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, John. It was fun to play catch with you, too.
Yes, it was. Let's do it again.
We need to do it longer.
Get that shoulder on some ice.
Get on some
Get a little ice on that tonight.
Well, I want him to run some routes. I want to hit you moving.
Yeah, we got to get to a bigger field next time.
Tell Kim when you get home that you threw the ball around with the guys.
I will.
That's
She'll
what we
love
got
that.
done tonight. Yeah. Thank you so much for being
Thanks
here.
so
Have
much,
a great
John.
week, and we look forward to seeing you again. The great John, by the way, here on the Wise Guys. Blaine, I need you to be a model for a moment. Are you ready to model our power drinks right there?
Yeah. Well, here.
Miranda's going to put a camera on you in just a sec.
Miranda.
And then we'll do that.
I've got these going here.
Yeah. This is how we're going to do it. So
Yep.
You're the model, and while you model, I'll remind you, Defense Drinks makes a pre-workout that's caffeine-free. Get the energy and performance boost without disturbing your sleep, having caffeine jitters, or a caffeine crash. Being caffeine-free and using clean ingredients means it can be safely used by you and NCAA athletes. Save 10% on your order at defensedrinks.com using the promo code WISEGUYS. Did you model that pretty good?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. So, by the way, what's in this right now is the electrolyte hydration drink. So they have multiple products Defense does. And it also has collagen in it. When you get old like me, you need to have collagen. I don't see Mike lifting in the gym as much as I used to, but we look after each other. When you get old like Mike and I, Mike Littlewood, you have to make sure your collagen's there. This is Tiger's Blood. It's pretty good. I've been drinking it throughout the show. And I don't do pre before the show because I'm already bouncing off the walls.
Yeah, that's true. You don't need
Dave's
to pre.
like, please don't do pre before the show. But I do pre before I go work out. So
let's bring in our next guest. By the way, coming up next week, baseball's Hawaiian Punch, Kahio Aloy and Keone Painter going to be here, along with BYU football's new new offensive line coach, assistant coach on the team, TJ Woods.
Yeah.
We'll get his post-spring
TJ
assessment.
work the other day. He's fun to watch.
Darius Lassiter and LJ Martin are confirmed for later in April, along with Matt Bushman, Brandon Doman, Lee Johnson. So we've got all-star. It's like the Masters every week.
You talked to me about getting with Lee the other day.
Yeah.
Then I was with him the next day after we asked him. He's pumped to come on. I can't wait to have Lee on.
He's high energy.
We can't give him any pre before he comes out. No pre for him, right? But he's excited. He's like, this show's going to be epic. I'm like, it will be epic.
It'll be epic. Our next guest played and coached baseball at BYU. He was on the hot corner at third base. Just finished a full season officiating college basketball, including the big dance. It's our pleasure to welcome back our friend Mike Littlewood to the Wise Guys. Usually when we hang out, we're eating lunch. But tonight we're talking about you. Welcome.
It's great to be here, and you're right. We haven't seen each other in a while. And Dave, I thought there was going to be food here. That's why I came. Because every time it's for lunch.
We should have a steak salad here at some point. I apologize for that. No, we hear from players and coaches all the time about how important it is to play in the big dance, to reach it and take the floor and feel the magic. What's it like for an official?
It's the same.
Really?
It's the same thing. I've coached a lot of what I think are really big baseball games and went to a regional, and but on the officiating side, there's nothing that I've ever experienced in athletics that's as special as March Madness. Just the feeling, and I've worked a couple Elite Eights, which are regional finals, and 2 or 3 Sweet 16s, which are regionals. And before my first regional, I literally didn't think I could blow my whistle. I was just like
out of air.
Was you just mouth dry and you couldn't get a breath?
Hyperventilating. You're like, can I do this? Can I do this? And then the first time they took it down the court, Joaquin Noah stuck his elbow into somebody's throat, and I had a foul. And I'm like, my whistle works, my breath works, my throat works. I can do this. But it's they take 100 guys, 100 referees to work March Madness, and
Out of how many?
I don't even know.
There's got to be a bazillion.
Yeah,
right?
how do you get
400 or 500 in the country?
Yeah.
How do you
Division
get
I
selected? Like, what's the process? Do you, like,
You're evaluated every single game, every single play you do. We're evaluated probably by 2 or 3 different people every single game we work, especially in the Power 5 conferences or the Mountain West and West Coast, PAC. The bigger ones that I work, you're getting evaluated by an evaluator, and they put your. I did that when I was coaching at BYU.
Right.
I'd actually grade games out. So there's a lot of scrutiny. And then ultimately there's the NCAA committee, selection committee, and Chris Rastetter, who's the coordinator of officials. And they'll give you, they'll send you an email on the first one. They'll give you calls after that. So I did not get a call after the first round.
Nice. So after a game, they go to the coaches and teams go to their locker rooms. You guys go to yours. How soon are you critiqued on how you did?
Well, if you screw something up, you're critiqued pretty immediately.
Like, do you hear about it in the locker room afterwards?
Yeah. I had a couple games this year that didn't go the way we wanted them, and we heard about it in the locker room right away, either by text by a supervisor, and you never want those. But just normally you'll get your evaluation probably a week later, and it's got a percentage there for you. It's got calls so you're graded on no calls incorrect, correct calls, no calls correct. So if I'm driving the ball to you and you wall up with verticality and I bang into you and there's a no call, I should get credit for that by making a tough no call. And so there's a lot of things that, like, your normal fan wouldn't appreciate, that because there's decisions to make every single time down the court.
You could call foul every time, couldn't you?
Oh yeah, you could call fouls all the time, but we call them interrupters. Does this foul, is it going to help the game? Or is it just going to interrupt the game and slow it down and chop it up? And nobody wants to do that.
And do you keep in mind, does this foul have an impact on does the defender get an advantage by what he just did, and you take that into account as well, right?
Yeah, 100% we do. For us, it's called like a rebound. You get the rebound, I come over your back, I bang you a little bit, but you come down with the ball and you don't lose your balance. There's no possession consequence there, and so you kind of just let that go. Now, if you bang them hard, you have to make that decision whether it's hard enough to call a foul or not. But usually, guys rebounding are big guys. You want to keep those guys in the game. You don't want cheap fouls on them, and so you try not to call fouls on big guys early.
Former BYU baseball head coach and current college basketball official Mike Littlewood is on the Wise Guys on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. Now, here comes the question we've been just dying to ask you.
We've been talking about this ever since we knew you were coming.
I think I've heard this.
It seemed to us that tournament games are so much more physical than regular season games. And it doesn't matter which one. BYU got banged up against Duquesne, but even the games the other day, it just seems like what is a foul in the regular season is suddenly not in the postseason. And so we were wondering, as officials, you guys said, hey, are you told, guys, let the game go and let the game be itself and don't interfere with it? Do you guys swallow your whistle is another thing that we talk. How do you approach a tournament game from a regular season game?
Well, I think they're the same. I would hope they're the same. And I think the physicality of tournament games are just the nature of what's on the line. I mean, everybody's, and you're seeing, it's so much easier to referee two very, very talented teams that are physical. Some of the lower level leagues are much harder to referee because the guys might not be in such in control. But you get BYU Duquesne, they're super athletic, they're super physical, and they can get away with a little bit more physicality. And just what we talked about, you don't want to put cheap fouls in games like that where you have 50 fouls and you're shooting 40 free throws each. So I would hope it's the same. And we all have our philosophy. We're taught the philosophy about 10-1-4 or freedom of movement and verticality plays and pathway plays and plant foot plays and all these things that, again, the regular fan doesn't know about, but we definitely have a philosophy on how we're calling certain plays to get us on the same page. Now, whether your judgment's the same as us three or a crew, our judgment might be different. But to answer your question, we're definitely not swallow the whistle, but let them play. it's interesting because I had a game. I won't mention the teams, but we let them play a little bit, and this was a pretty good game, pretty competitive game that meant something at the end of the season. And we did shoot some free throws, but for the most part, we let them play a little bit. And one of the better players, came up to me and patted me on the rear end. And he said, "Hey, thanks for letting us play tonight. This was late in the game." And I'm like, "That's what they want."
Yeah.
Didn't get much pushback from coaches, and so that's kind of what they want if we can do that.
If you can let them play, and it's not to an advantage to one team or another, that's what you want, right?
Yeah, 100%. It'd be great to have no fouls in the game and let them play and just watch them shoot baskets. And in fact, most pre-games that I have with captains is like, "Hey, put the ball in the basket, and this is going to be good for everybody." But when they're missing shots and rebounding, and it's just tough. It makes it tough.
We called a game where there were, how many fouls? Was it 70 fouls?
It was something crazy.
Oh my gosh.
And I literally, after the game, I was like,
It might have been a women's basketball.
yeah, I think it was, and somebody said, "What'd you think of the game?" And I said, "Right now, I want to kill myself." Like, this is the worst.
There
thing
wasn't
I've
a
ever,
game. A game
This
didn't
is
break
the
out.
worst thing I've ever seen in my life, and I'm not going to mince words about it. Right?
Yeah.
It's no fun for you as an official if it kind of gets out of hand and it's sloppy, and they really are fouling, it's affecting the play, and you have to call it. That's not fun for you guys either, right?
It's really not. In fact, you're going, "Oh, geez, another foul." Can you just please not? And then you try to talk them out of it. You'll see referees on the baseline take their whistle out of their mouth and say straight up or get off him, or out top you'll say no hands. You'll try to just preventative officiate a little bit, but a lot of times they don't want to listen, or they're just so caught up in the moment that when you try to go by me, I'm going to stick my hand out and cause you to and bump you a little bit, and that's a foul. Any day of the week, that's a foul. So yeah, it does make it tough.
I was going to ask you if this is the thing or not, and this is a very reputable coach that's coached in the Old Mountain West when you and I were working that league together a bunch, and then
When we see each other in Ruston, Louisiana.
Yeah, we'd see each other all over the
TCU,
place. Like,
hey, there's Blaine.
Yeah, Mike and you weren't calling any BYU games at that time, but we were both kind of all over that league, and you and I would see each other all the time, which was
just
really
random
fun.
places.
It's good to run into your old BYU guys, right?
Yeah.
But, so Coach said to me one time, especially when we're at home, we teach our guys to come out and be super, super aggressive, maybe even a little handsy. And because we almost want to change the barometer of the game. We want to be so aggressive at the beginning that the officials have to think, "Oh man, are we going to call something on every single time down the floor, or are we going to let this go?" And then what we do is, if they call us for 2 or 3 right in a row, then we know, okay, we got to back off a little bit. If they let us get away with that, then that's good. We reset the barometer. Is that a thing?
I think it is. And as officials, we talk about that. And there's some games you'll go out and you'll throw the ball up, and then it's like, whoa, this is okay. Game on. They're ready to go, and then you kind of like heighten your awareness a little bit. And there's some games that just kind of they flow, and everything's good. It's almost like a scrimmage, and everything's good. But I think a lot of coaches go with that philosophy, especially on certain things like screening.
Right.
And that's probably the biggest one. Hey, let's just move a little bit, get a little bit wider than we should, and see if they'll call it. Let's put the impetus on those guys, see if they'll blow the whistle or not, and if we can get away with it. Because if they don't call a couple, now they've set the bar right there.
Yeah.
You can't call the fourth one that was the same as the first 3, because that's not going to be consistent. So, yeah, I think you're right on.
In that BYU Duquesne game, one of the things that I noticed as we were watching it was how aggressive Duquesne, you talk about screening, playing over the top of the screen. So they're coming on BYU shooters and they're trying to get over the top of the screen, and they're literally like throwing both arms in between the screener and the defender, knocking the guy with the ball, knocking the guy off the screen. And I'm thinking, man, those all look like fouls to me. Of course, I'm rooting for BYU. I'm not calling the game. When I'm calling the game, I don't really think about that.
Yeah.
When I'm rooting for BYU, I'm like, man, they're sure being physical.
Those are some of the toughest plays to call. And they're 2 referee plays, so you'll know there's a guy out top, trail or center. Center's always across from the free throw line, and he's alone on the side of the court. Well, those picks up there, they have to be refereed by 2 people. One referee has to take the screen, one referee has to take the dribbler, and the guy, especially if he's playing up top, like going through the top of it, it's a really, really tough play, because you got to look at the screener. You got to look at the guy who's making contact. Is he bumping the dribbler? Is a dribbler throwing his elbow? There's a lot going on in those plays.
Yeah.
It sounds like team has to be on the same page to run their offense, and you can tell when they're not on the same page. Is it the same for your crew of 3, where you might go, hey, everyone's improv tonight, as opposed to, and often you're in charge of your crew on the floor, and how do you get them all on the same page?
Yeah, that's so interesting you say that, because there is a crew chemistry. Culture is talked a lot about in teams.
Yeah.
And I think culture is one of those things we can't define. and you just know it's there or not. And I think that's the same with officiating. You'll be going through a game and you'll be 3 minutes into it and you'll hear a whistle and you're like, what just happened? That whistle didn't even fit this game, whether it was a foul or not or whatever. It just doesn't fit right now. And then you kind of you'll have talks at timeouts. You go and, hey, what'd you see on that play? And the nice thing about the Division I level that's different from maybe the high school or JC level where you're only working with the same guys all the time, so you kind of have to be nicer. We're honest with each other. We'll say, nah, there was no contact there, or it was where a guy might have called a shooting foul, nah, that was a pass. It was a no call.
And do they get mad and huffy?
No, a lot of guys will try to fight for their call or justify what I wasn't looking there, I was looking up here or whatever. It's like, okay, we'll look at the tape after, because we can go on DV Sport and look at halftime at plays, and we do that. So you'll get immediate feedback, where when I refereed before I took the 10 years off, it was like the DVD, or not the DVD, not even DVDs.
VHS, yeah.
VHS. Rolling it back and trying to find the right spot. But right now it's go to the play and find it.
So what about also, I think, another point of frustration for fans, because they might not understand what you guys are doing. When you go to a video review, and let's say there's a bunch of them in the game where it just takes too long. Is there a clock in your head of like, hey, look, we can't be over here for 5 minutes? And there were some of those in the tournament at various spots where you can feel the fans groaning while you're looking at a video. What is that moment like?
That's one thing we say is we don't want to spend a lifetime over there, but we want to make sure we get it right.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times it's so interesting, because a lot of times you guys are doing TV and you'll say, oh yeah, I tipped it out. You'll get this look from your producer or whoever's giving you those looks. And you'll get that immediately, because you have everybody in the truck going, hey, look at this angle. It's off his feet.
Every person on tape goes, hey, I got to look. I got one right here. And then they forward that one to us, right?
And we're going through however many angles DV Sport has, and we're toggling ourselves because we want to. And so we'll touch screen it, give me A look, B look. And in the NCAA tournament, they have 12 looks. And so if you're not sure, you can't walk away from there making a decision and not. So we'll always go, hey, what does TV have? And a lot of times you'll see somebody run over to the TV crew and say, what do you guys have? And what angle are you looking at? And then we'll run back and go. So, and especially under 2 minutes, because under 2 minutes you can review everything. Yeah. So you're not going to have an out of bounds call in a close game and not review it, because you'll just get vilified if you you will. It's just, if you miss it and you can go check it, it just gives you the opportunity to get everything 100% right. So, yeah, it slows down the game, but the percentage of correct calls goes way up.
Well, and I'm always surprised at how the percent that do you actually get the call right on the floor. It's amazing to me. Ones where it's just like bam, bam, and you're going, and they make a call, and then you go review it, and the call is right. Sure, you overturn some, but are you surprised at the percentage that are right on the floor?
It's amazing, because the correct calls, like when you blow your whistle, college officials are right around above 97%.
That's correct. That's amazing to me.
Now it's when you get into your no calls, where you're letting plays go, and there might be a reason you're letting plays go, that this play just doesn't fit, or whatever it is, or it's a flop and everybody thinks should be a charge or a block.
Right.
But you don't want to put a flop in the game because it just doesn't fit this game. It doesn't fit the piece of the puzzle. And so there's so much more that goes into it than simply that's a foul, or that's not a foul. So
there's nothing that drives a baseball fan more nuts, or a batter, probably even more so than the fan, is if the strike zone changes over the course of a game. And you've had plenty of those with home plate umpires when you're on the other side as the manager, head coach going, hey, that was a ball in the third inning. How can it be a strike in the eighth inning? Because your pitcher's on the hill going, well, now I don't even know what I'm doing.
Yeah. That is, that's a big thing, consistency throughout the game. And that's what you hear from a lot of times from the coaching, that, it's the little league thing to say is call them both ways. But being consistent on both ends of the court, calling your freedom of movements, calling your verticality plays, all the same. So when you get one that's weird and out of whack, everybody knows it.
If you're over by a coach and the coach says, Mike, we've been doing that all game, you guys have been letting us get away with that all game long, and now you just called that. That's so out of. Do you acknowledge that?
Oh yeah, everybody communicates in their own different way. And for me, and I have a little bit of credibility just because I've been doing it so long, and the tournament gives you credibility.
You have a lot of credibility.
And so when you talk, I would say a lot of young guys just nod your head. And if we're going to a tough coach and I have a younger guy with me, I'll just say, just nod your head, or communicate how you want, but don't get yourself in trouble by your words. But I'll just go, which specific play? So they don't want to talk like that.
Yeah,
they don't want to get in a conversation.
Yeah.
So I'll say, no, I can't remember which particular play. But if I do know, I'll say, yeah, we probably missed that one. And I think that's showing a little bit of humility where he goes, what can you say about that? I will say that a lot of guys will say, well, then just get them right.
Yeah.
But most guys understand.
We're trying, right?
Yeah, most guys know that you're not going to be perfect.
NCAA college basketball official Mike Littlewood's on the Wise Guys tonight. We're so happy we're happy we're friends.
Yeah.
And then we're happy to be able to talk about this stuff. The college basketball season's long. The teams play 35 games. How many did you ref this year?
Yeah, I better not say the number, but it was a lot. Yeah, my legs are telling me to shut it down. So.
What is the typical
Wait, do you do more than
season?
David Hall used to in his peak?
No.
Because I used to say to Dave, where are you this week? Well, I'm here. I said, are you doing 4 games this week? Is that even possible? No, I'm doing 5, Blaine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay.
I'll tell you a lot of, now that it's my main job without coaching, I've never had that before. When I coached, 50-ish was a good number for me. And so not coaching, you can kind of tell where that number.
And when you were at Dixie, you could still go do college games.
Yeah, Dixie I could do.
Both.
That was part of the deal. But obviously at BYU, there's way too much. I wouldn't even want to do that.
So how many a week, give or take, on average?
4 or 5.
4 or 5.
Yeah, 4 or 5. But there's a point where at my age, you don't want to just blow it out in 1 year and try to go do as many games you can. And you kind of just have to pace because the legs are, you have one set of legs. Yeah. And
Well, then there's the head.
Yeah.
If you're in your 5th city in a week and it's the second half and it's crunch time.
Yeah.
And you're somewhere
when
else.
I used to do 2 games a week. I'd wake up in the middle of the night in the hotel, and I would sit up and I'd go,
where are we?
Which way's the bathroom? I don't even know what hotel I'm in. What city am I in? I don't know how you can do 5.
I can't tell you how many times I would go to the hotel, and everybody has a routine, right? You take the earliest flight, so you're up at 4 a.m. You take the 6 a.m. flight. You get to your next city at 9 a.m. Try to sleep a little bit. Try to, I've got a routine when I get in. I turn on the TV. I iron. And I put my clothes away. I have to do that. And then I'll probably go lift or just fake like I'm lifting down there a little bit.
No, this man could lift, believe me.
And so
I've worked out with him.
And everybody has their routine that way. And if you get out of your routine, but I had a stretch where I did probably 11 out of 12 days this year.
Oh, wow.
And it was zigzag, and it was, but it's kind of like it took me back to pro baseball. Your body just gets ready again. I don't know how it does, but when the ball goes up or when the first pitch is thrown, your body just is ready to go. And it's amazing how the body works. And you can get your rest where you need it. But it's just part of the business.
When you were doing this, and you and I have known each other for a long, long time. You were doing it before you were the baseball coach at BYU. Then you took a decade off.
Yeah.
To coach baseball, and it sounds like you were doing 35 to 50 games back in those days before, and then you come back full time. How hard was it to make the transition back in to college officiating after being out of it for a decade?
God, it was, it's funny because Coach Pope would ask me when I was coaching, he's like, hey, can you just come up and officiate like our scrimmage? I'm like, there's no way I could do a scrimmage for you right now. I wouldn't even know what I'm doing. And I was still grading games. I was breaking down games for officials and doing that and staying close to it. And by the way, I don't think if I could have done that, if I would have done that, I could have come back just because I had the lingo and I had seen plays. But so I started, when I knew I was going to go back and officiate, I started working NBA, like the Jazz training camp. Saw Danny Ainge there quite a bit. But I would do that. I did the 76ers training camp when they came in. I did Pro-Am leagues up at Judge Memorial High School. I worked a lot of games. And at first the plays were so fast and I was following the ball, which, as an official, you never want to watch the ball.
Right?
You have your responsibilities. And if you're watching the ball like that, you're going to get fired in a hurry. So I was watching the ball, and I've got a good buddy, Gary Zielinski, who worked in the NBA for 25 years. And he came and watched me. He goes, hey, you're watching the ball. Watch your defender. Watch and go from defender to defender. So the play calling came back really quick. The game management part of it I was kind of like, I was just watching my partners and seeing what they did and when timeouts were coming, and like they would call a timeout and I'm like, what? Where's the clock? I have no idea. Or they're 1-on-1, foul. Okay, we got 1-on-1. I'm like, oh, we're at 7 fouls already. That took a while. The game management part took probably a full. Well, last year. I worked the PK, not this that just finished, but last year I worked the PK 85, I think it was, for Phil Knight and that was given to me by a guy who I mean, I really appreciate. He's the previous national coordinator, but not until like probably Thanksgiving of last year did I really feel comfortable with the game management part. And honestly, it's still a work in progress, but I do feel pretty comfortable now, because you have to know we have a media timeout coming up. First call timeout of the second half, we're going to a media. There's just so much, and if you don't know what's going on, you kind of look like a fool out there. So, and especially at the table, they're going, hey, that's a media timeout. And you're going, that's a 30. No, it's a media timeout. What? Okay, we're going. So if you know that beforehand, so all that stuff took a little bit longer than
some
play
time
calling.
to get back. It's interesting because there is that part of the game that nobody even thinks about. And as you go into a game, officials rotate around. There's three of you, and you rotate around. You're on this side of the court here, and then the foul's called, and you rotate. So you're in different spots, and when you're in different spots, you look at different things.
Correct.
How long does it take somebody to be proficient to know when I'm over here, I'm looking at this, and not follow the ball?
You know, it takes a long time. It really does, and it's just discipline. You have to work a lot of games, but every level you go to, if you go up a level, it takes a little bit different type of discipline with yourselves. Like lead, you're not really supposed to look up at the but if you have a couple partners that are young, you're going to take a peek up there. And so the way we rotate is with the lead who's on the baseline, he rotates with the ball. He or she rotates with the ball. So the ball goes that side, you go this side, it kicks the other guy out, and the other guy drops down. Now your responsibilities change. At the Division I level, it's just a well-oiled machine. Everybody kind of knows where they're supposed to be. Although I was working the West Coast tournament this year. I'm not kidding you. And I'll say Vern Harris because he's a really good friend of mine. He's worked 10 Final Fours.
Yeah.
You know?
What's sad is when we're watching games, my wife Brenda goes, "Hey, look, honey, Vern's working this game." And Michael Irving was working the game last night. She's like, "Hey, honey, look, it's Michael Irving
awesome.
right there."
That's awesome. So I was reffing at Trail, which is the outside guy who leads with me on the baseline, and I'm kind of looking for. The lead was on the other side. I'm kind of looking for Vern because. No, C was over there. There was no lead. And I'm like, where's Vern? He was literally right where you are, but the coach is standing between us. And I'm going, Vern, you got to get down there. And the coach goes, hey, Vern, pats him on the butt. You got to get down there. So
Vern's not a big guy. Vern's a little guy.
We do miss it sometimes.
That's fun.
What is it like for an official? And we're with Mike Littlewood here on the Wise Guys, college basketball official. Just got back from officiating in the NCAA tournament. When the crowd is on you, like big time, and they decide they're going to stay on you, how do you keep that from affecting how you're going to call the game? Because you're a human being.
Yeah. If you know you're right, it doesn't affect you at all. It's just having thick skin. And I think being through athletics my entire life, I've kind of learned to, people, it was a long, long time ago that I figured out that not everybody loves you. When I was a coach at Alta High School, I'm like, man, I'm the best. Everybody loves me. And then, you get a negative comment like, I think it was a letter from a parent, like, not everybody really loves me. And that, so you kind of get, I guess just a little, you put up your armor a little bit with that. So, but when you miss a call and you know you missed it, you're like, man, I got it. And it's hard to regroup and get back in the groove, just like it is after 3 strikeouts, or walking 3 guys in a row. It's like, how do I get this back? So it's just mental toughness and trying to figure your way through it.
Are there makeup calls? So the casual viewer goes,
oh, that was a
makeup call for the one they missed. Are there makeup calls?
You try not to do that, but I would say that you want to be like-minded. So if there's a call on the other end, one end of the court that's a little bit iffy, like you're shooting and I hit your hand in the ball, and then I've got to call the same thing on the other end of the court. And it's really not a makeup, but it's just you're trying to match calls. But now if I totally screw up a block charge call, I don't want to go down and screw up another block charge call. That's not going to be good for anybody.
Yeah. No. What about technical fouls? I don't know that I've ever seen you call one. I'm sure you have many times, but never in a game that I've been calling have you called one.
Is that the ultimate power?
Yeah. What's
if you look at it that way, then you shouldn't be doing this.
I'm not 12. A ref, so I could like.
Dave would call a lot of tees.
I'd go in and just teeing people up.
Tee. Hey, you tee. You got tee. You're out of
here. Our new supervisor really wanted us to take care of a bench decorum, which was it's a point of emphasis this year. They have to stay in their coaches have to stay in their box. They have to be respectful. So I probably gave 10 plus or minus, maybe 12 technicals this year, but I view them as just another foul. It's two free throws. It's not a Class A technical foul. Say a coach or a player they don't get the ball with that. Only a flagrant, or a contact dead ball or something like that. But not a Class A. So it's 2 free throws and we play on.
Right.
So it's kind of the same thing as a shooting foul. It's looked at differently because it's usually on the head coach.
And he's lost his mind over something.
And honestly, I feel like the technical fouls that I've given is just either he's lost his mind in a moment, which I've done myself on the baseball field, so I get it.
Yeah.
Or
we all have moments.
Yeah. Or he wants to get a technical foul, and a lot of times I feel like that's the case, and so. And sometimes it's just a reaction, and you're like, no, that's T, and so.
Do you remember in Hoosiers, Gene Hackman goes up to the official and says, kick me out?
Yeah.
Because he's going to have his assistant take over, and they're like, what? Kick me out. He's like, you got your reasons. Has any coach ever come up to you and said, just get me out of here?
No. The story's too long to tell, but I know one did. Steve McLean up at Wyoming one year did.
Yeah, I can see Steve
He clearly wanted to be thrown out because he walked and he called me probably 3 or 4 names that I cannot say on this show or any show. Anyway, so he wanted that, but nobody's ever said that.
What's the most? I'm gonna add two questions, 2-part. What's your favorite game you've ever called, and then what's the most intense game you've ever called? Maybe they're the same game.
Well, I think the favorite was my first regional final. It was UConn, Missouri, down in Phoenix in Glendale Stadium. So they put bleachers on the half court, and there's probably 35,000 people there, and just a great environment. That was probably just the most memorable. Man, I've had so many. Just this year, I had UNLV San Diego State, and it was just a. And
they're both very good this year.
Yeah, it was just a war, but I've had a lot of those. I couldn't even name one, but this year that one sticks out.
How about that one year in the Elite Eight? You had Rick Pitino yelling at you on this end of the floor, and Tom Izzo yelling at you at the other end of the floor in the same game.
Yeah, that was the last game I worked before I came to BYU. Didn't know that was going to be the last game. And you've been in my office, and I had that ball that's signed by both of them, and Coach Pope was part of that because he played for Pitino.
Right.
So he sent the ball, and then I think Coach Izzo felt like, well, I better just sign it too, and he signed it. But they were so, I worked Louisville. I worked Coach Krzyzewski, who, he's a scary guy over there on the sideline.
Totally different from the persona.
Yeah. And I actually got a chance to work with them in the 2008 Redeem team down in Vegas with the practice, just their practice training.
And isn't that when you first time you called a foul on Kobe Bryant?
Probably. But I did have great interaction with Kobe, and I think I text you. I have probably. I'm still waiting for the royalties on this, but like a 1 second cameo appearance on that Redeem team when Kobe was going out of bounds, and back then the shorts were really cool to wear. That was me.
And you were in Vegas.
I was in Vegas. Yeah, shorts were down below my knee, and just a reffing shirt on. But that was one of the greatest experiences I've ever had. I took Marcus, my son, down there, and he took some pictures that you weren't supposed to on his flip phone, and Kobe was asking me questions. I'm like, I don't know, I'll make something up just to keep talking.
He'd ask you a basketball question like, hey, what about this? Is this a foul? Is this not a foul?
Exactly. So we were using FIBA rules, which are different than NBA rules, and he came up, and I remember the one specific thing. He locked my arm up, and he grabbed it towards him, and he goes, is this a foul in FIBA? And I said, that's a foul pretty much anywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know if they would call it or not. But I just remember I gained a whole new respect for Kobe Bryant, because I really wasn't a Kobe fan. Didn't know a whole lot about his story or whatever, but anytime the USA team took a timeout or for water break, he would never take one. He would always go work on one of his patented moves that you see on TV. Every single, like for 2 days, he would never, and then he'd go talk to Krzyzewski about some just game planning type stuff. It was amazing.
He was relentless work ethic is a great way to describe
just a
him.
Newfound respect for what he was all about.
And they never sent you a gold medal. I wrote about your experience at Deseret.com. You can find it. No ring, no nothing. Just work.
Not even a thanks. Not even a picture.
Well, they did win the gold. They did. That was the Redeem team, and
I feel like I was a huge part of that. So
that's very cool stuff.
Getting ready.
Well, hey, we're talking to Mike Littlewood. We're talking all basketball, but former BYU third baseman. Right? Mm-hmm. There you go. And head coach Mike Littlewood. He's on the Wise Guys with us tonight. 3 WCC championships as the head coach. He led the Cougars to the 2017 NCAA tournament and named WCC Coach of the Year in 2019. So here's a philosophical question for you. How's playing third base a lot like life?
Things come at you quick. I would say, it's a hot corner. So there's a lot of split decisions to make. You have to show a little finesse by that slow roller. You also have to get your body and stuff and knock stuff down and throw a guy out. And so Yeah, you never know what's coming at you. And I think that's probably at short, you just sit back there and the ground ball comes and you go time.
They got it easy
you
over
get
there.
a good hop and you just throw it, second's even easier because you got a shorter throw. Just kidding. But, third base, it could come at you hard and you have to react, or they could bunt. It could be a high shot. You just never know what it's going to bring. And I said, that's probably a good comparison to life.
When you're playing.
I was going to say greatest third baseman of all time.
I love Craig Nettles and I
That's
love George
mine.
Brett. Is it really?
Yes, that's my favorite.
And then probably anybody listening would go, who?
No, I know. You and I are like,
because nowadays there's some pretty good ones nowadays.
Yeah. Well, as you're playing that third base, it's a game, and it's a college game or Little League or Pony League or whatever. Did you feel, maybe looking back now, you see how it prepared you for all the split things that are coming at you in life? At the time, it's just the game, right? I look at Easton Jones right now is just getting ready for his next game at BYU. But it's molding you for how you're going to deal with stuff.
Oh, it really is. And I was listening to you guys coming over here, and John was, by the way, was saying that his dream was to be a fighter pilot. And I'm like, man, I set my goals way too high because I put professional baseball player on my sheet in elementary school. And unfortunately, I made it, but unfortunately, it was short-lived, and my eyes were actually okay, which is even sadder because I had 20/20 vision and still couldn't hit. But I truly think there's another thing you guys touched on is athletics teaches you so much about life. I mean, it teaches you some negative things, especially baseball. Baseball is very, very negative. I mean, the old adage is if you 3 out of 10, you're going to make it to the Hall of Fame. You're the best of the best, and it's really what you do. You're expected to field every ball and throw it across, but you don't. Most college guys are 950. They'll get 95 out of 100, but you think about the 5 more than you do the 95 that you got right, and so you have to stew on that and stew on it. But the great thing about baseball is you play so many games, you get that opportunity to step back up the next day and get it going again. Unlike football, where you have 6 days to worry about, look back in angst or look forward, and it's your choice. But all the great stuff too, just the organizational stuff, showing up on time and being part of a team, and all the things that we could talk about in athletics. It clearly does, I think, and that's why one of the reasons BYU has their job fair, and all the best companies are coming in looking for the athletes in this job fair, with the athletes job fair, because they have something special to offer.
Mike Littlewood, just a couple more questions. Blaine's going to hit you up with 5 here in a sec. First, before we do that, what's the latest with the Littlewoods, with Danny, the kids, the grandkids? What's going on?
Well, there's 12 of them. And
12
grandkids? 12 grandkids.
Man.
9 girls, 3 boys.
Man, I was never going to let Mike get ahead of me.
He's
how
ahead.
many you have?
I'm going to catch you because Blair and Nicole down St. George.
Yeah.
They're going to have number 12 here.
You'll probably get us.
Our 2 youngest hadn't had any yet. So.
Oh yeah, you're going to hit 20.
So
yeah, you're going to hit 20.
The McCanns are closing in on, we picked up 9, we're closing in on 10 in July, and then I think we're going to pass both of you before the kids are done.
No, it's all about grandkids right now. I think, Danny's busy with grandkids probably every day. There's one of our kids is always calling, can you watch them here and here? So she's booked out watching grandkids, but I haven't seen Danny for probably five months, and she's probably enjoyed that. So.
Now, what do you do in the off season when you're home all the time? Could she even take you at home?
Yeah, exactly. I go hit balls a lot. So and again, I'm a routine oriented guy. Gym, hit golf balls. Just have to stay busy.
Yeah.
And you still do some coaching, some training, and all of that stuff.
Yeah, I work for a company that Chad Shepard is the general manager, and it's called the Marshall Gates Foundation, where we bring in, it runs from June until 1st of June until middle of August. And I'm in player development, but we bring in 120 of the best high school kids going into college, some college freshmen, and they're housed, they're bused to and from, they have access to a 25,000 square foot facility. They play in a league out at Kearns High School, very, very competitive league. And I mean, these guys are going out and playing, we have guys starting at Santa Clara, starting at Stanford, starting at Cal. We had LSU's 7 of their freshmen. So we get, it's an amazing program. And, they probably put $750,000 to $1 million in it.
Really?
Every single summer. And kids are just, and we get these referrals from college coaches say, can you have this kid come and take care of him for the summer? And my goal is to try to teach them to get ready for fall. What what can you expect, and here's some holes in your swing that you might be able to fix a little bit, or whatever. Just tweak them a little bit in the 2 months, because you're not going to change them. But it's been great for me, because that's what I love. Is the one thing I miss about coaching is working the guys. I mean, the relationship with the guys, but working with the infielders in the first half an hour that I would always plan for infield work. I miss that.
Yeah. Spoken as an infielder.
Yeah.
You know what it's like.
So still keeping your hand in two sports, which is really fun too. It's baseball and basketball, which is really fun.
All right, you ready to get after him?
We'll give you five. We'll give you 5 questions here. Right. Your favorite sports movie?
I like For Love of the Game.
Have we had that yet?
I don't know if we have or not. I saw some of it the other day. Costner's good.
Yeah. It's a little bit corny, but
kind of my wife would call it a chick flick.
Yeah, he's got some decent arm action, and so you can buy it. And it's kind of real. So
there's a scene in there where his catcher comes out. He's throwing his no hitter. He doesn't think he's got anything left, and the catcher is he's in all these slapstick comedies, but here he's playing a serious catcher. Will Ferrell, colleague, and anyway, gives him a little pep talk, and you kind of, for a minute there, you're like, hey, we're out there on the hill with them. Yeah. We don't know what they talk about when they go out there.
And in the dugout, when somebody's throwing a no-hitter, you stay away from him. You don't say no-hitter.
It's like a kicker in football. You just don't talk to him.
So I love that part of it. It's quirky and it's corny, but it's kind of real. And so, I mean, on the top of my head, I just threw that one out.
Okay, here's a funny thing real quick. I went to, my nephews were playing state championship game, and it was AF against somebody. And anyway, I was late. So I get there and I sit, my brothers send me a seat in the middle of the thing, and I climb over everybody and I sit down and I look up and I look up and I go, hey, has he got a no-hitter? And they're all looking at me going, and then a minute later, guy got a hit and ended it. And they're sitting there going, we're not talking about that. But it was just such one of those moments where you're like, hey, what did I miss? Is that a no-hitter? And then it ruined it for everyone.
It's just like there's certain you don't say that. You don't talk to a guy that's having it.
I realized what had happened.
You don't talk to a kicker that has to kick a big kick. You don't ever talk to that guy.
That's the same. I didn't know that.
It's like don't talk to that guy. Like, why would you even talk to him? Don't talk to him. And you don't say the word shank on a golf course.
That's true.
Like, it's like you don't say, hey, I think I have the shanks. Everybody turns around. It's like you just just say shank on the golf course.
That's funny.
So okay, next one. Favorite singer or band?
Oh gosh. I mean, I like Khalid.
Oh, Khalid.
That's our first.
No, I'm trying to think if somebody else said that.
I don't think we've had a Khalid in 2 years.
I like every genre of music. I really do. So, and I don't know lyrics, and I really don't know artists that well, but I know what I like.
Yeah, that's good.
Pretty much everything.
Khalid is.
That's good. I like it. Favorite breakfast cereal?
Honey Nuts and Oats, or whatever that one is.
Honey Bunches of Oats?
Honey Bunches of Oats, yeah. The one you buy in bulk at Costco, but I don't eat a whole lot of cereal.
It's scary how much we know about breakfast cereal.
Like
as soon as you throw it out there, we know exactly the one you're talking about.
I call it more like 9:30 p.m. Food.
It's there for you all the time.
I eat cereal every Monday before the show.
Perfect.
And it's typically Cinnamon Life. So
yeah, that's good too.
Yeah. Your favorite BYU moment? And it can be when you were playing, coaching.
This is easy for me. I was sitting when Jimmer put up 56 down in Vegas.
Oh yeah,
I was working the next game, and I was just watching him.
You ref the Aztecs and who? UNLV?
I think I worked the next game, or I worked the previous game, but I was like on the second row watching that game. Yeah.
The New Mexico game, right in the semis. Is that the
way
one?
Broke Ainge's record?
Yeah, it must have been. I don't know what game.
Semifinals.
And he only shot one free throw.
I don't know what game it was, but
it was nuts.
Pretty awesome.
People just were shaking their heads.
Yeah,
like it was
just like me. Yeah, that was
Jimmer night.
That was fun.
And by the way, the national championship, Bosco to Smith.
Yeah, so he gets 52 points, and he shot one free throw the whole game. From the perspective of an official, how did he not shoot like 10 or 12 free throws?
Because he never went inside. He shot everything from the three-point line.
People early in the season with BYU, fans kept stopping me. Why does BYU, the other team always shoots 25 free throws and BYU shoots 6? I'm like, because they shoot a bunch of threes.
Yeah.
It's the nature of how they play, and nobody wanted to wrap their head around it.
And that's the way the game's changed a lot. Coaches will even say that. It's funny, coaches will find these little things like, he's got more foul, they've got more foul, we only have this many fouls, and they've got this. Or if they're even in fouls, then they'll point out the free throws, and if they're they'll find something. But teams are perimeter teams now for the most part.
Yeah. So
that's true.
Okay, your favorite. We asked about favorite game, but favorite officiating moment.
This will shock you, but I think it was when I had my first 5A high school championship game. George Sluga was on one side and Larry Maxwell was on the the other. They had probably
legends,
70 years of high school coaching experience behind them, and this was my first game, and I felt like I did in my first Sweet 16. I don't think my whistle's going to work. And I had a weak backcourt call where the guy put his foot right on the half-court line. Didn't cost anybody the game, but I felt like a total idiot for calling it. Just I remember those things, but that was one I was scared to death. I really was. I was scared to death, and the game went okay, I think. But that was one of my greatest moments.
Oh, I love it. 5A championship.
Yeah.
Well, we're heading to the Final Four weekend of a game that means so much to so many people at all levels. And the NBA is going to play till July or whatever it is that they do. But the game can't go on without officials. And sometimes they're the bad guys. They're usually pretty good if your team won. Yeah, and the officials weren't bad because we won. Yeah. But I remember growing up, there was Moose Stubing and Irv Brown, and it felt like they were part of the show instead of the officials.
I worked with Moose. Yeah.
Yeah, but you guys have a tough job, but it is the game isn't the game without the three. Used to be the two.
Yeah, it used to be the
and
two.
And now the three.
I guess it's the necessary evil. You can't live with them, can't live without them.
You got to have them. And Dave will tell you, we'll be sitting at our position to call a game, and I'll go, hey, who's officiating this game? And he'll read it, and I'll go, oh, no.
We're in for a long run.
He goes, what? And I go, no, I don't even want to comment on it.
We're using all our notes tonight.
I said, we could be here all night.
And then there's some where you're like, sweet, look, we got the A team.
Yeah. There are many times when I go, oh, this is a great crew. This is a great crew. This is going to be a great night. It really has an impact on the game. And when I look down there, and as long as we've been doing it and we know who they are, when we've got a great crew, it makes the game better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing I like, and as a compliment to you, because I watched you ref games this year, is that one of your strengths is when you're on the floor, you're in charge, and you look in charge, you act in charge, whether or not you're at the moment thinking you might be in charge. And I think everyone at least wants to have somebody in charge.
Yeah.
And I think coaches will deal with calls going this way and that as long as they know that you're in charge. And I think fans feel that too.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you saying that, Dave. And I heard from one coach this year. As officials, we were listening to a couple coaches, but speak. And one of them mentioned, like, if you show a weakness, you're basically like swimming amongst sharks. And if they see some blood or a weakness by an official, they're going to, or if us three are working, if they see the weakest link, they're going after him. And I've seen it, and usually it's the younger guy.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the way older guy. But they will find that. So you have to exude confidence. You have to find that without being arrogant, without being cocky.
Very fine balance, line. Right?
Yeah, there really, really is. Yeah. But you can't show weakness out there.
Will you come back on our show?
I'd love to. Yeah.
Yeah. Your open invitation as we get through things. You bet.
Are you going to get to a Final Four? Do you want to get to a Final Four?
I'd love to. In fact, I think I was 1 year away from getting there. In fact, I know I was. I was told that when I got out because I had worked a couple of Elite Eights.
Back in 11?
Yeah, it was 2012 was last, so probably 13 I would have been a standby, and 14 I may have worked. The national coordinator, John Adams, actually told me that. So after the fact. So I feel like I was close. I don't know if I'll get back there now. But I just want to go out every single night. I've got a different perspective on things of just getting better as an official, because there's so much scrutiny. You want to know the rules. You have to know the rules. You want to make good play calls. And I look at myself now as a mentor to younger guys coming up and being able to help them get to the position that I'm in now to be a lead in a league, be the referee on a crew. And so that's where I'm at right now. But I would love to get back there. I'm so thankful I got back to the tournament because it's such a special thing.
If you get back to the tournament, you're on the road to the Final Four.
Yeah, 100%. I got 1 game this year. I hope to get 2 next year. But that's a long way away, and you have to work all your games and just be solid.
There's a lot of ironing in between.
When he took the baseball job at BYU for the next couple of years, all the guys, and we talk about David Hall and those guys, hey, you see our boy Mike Littlewood? And I would always come tell you. I'd say, hey, the guys are asking.
Because they want tee times.
Exactly.
All of the officials that officiated with Mike would always say, hey, How's our guy Mike doing?
I would go see a bunch of them at half.
Tell him we'd love to have him back.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. There's some good guys. I miss the camaraderie. Didn't miss the travel. I missed the games, and I missed the camaraderie with the guys.
Yeah. Well, you're back in the game now, the basketball game, and say hi to your family.
Will do.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, we're so grateful you come in and spend some time with us. Good to see you, Mike.
There's some parting gifts in our green room on those orange chairs. Actually, there's not, but just pretend. We'll take you to lunch.
Looks great. Yeah.
We'll do some lunch.
We owe you lunch. We owe you lunch for sure.
All right, that's Mike Littlewood, a college basketball official, former BYU head baseball coach, a longtime friend of ours.
Yeah.
Ruled the hot corner. What I thought it was fantastic insight into a very difficult job that all of us have been judging in the big dance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's like, hey, what this, what that?
Everybody came up to me after that Duquesne game and just was like, man, BYU just got roughed up. Why didn't those guys call it? And my comeback was, why didn't BYU up their physicality when they knew that's the way the game was going to be called?
Punch it back.
When you get punched, you got to punch back. That's pretty much the rule in any sport, isn't it?
I think so.
If somebody punches you in the face in a sport, you better raise your level and punch them back. So
let's jump into some football, shall we?
Yeah.
And we got a bunch to tackle. Let's do our Cougar Board question of the week.
Oh, yeah.
Great to have Mike here, and we've got awesome guests the whole month. We're just getting going in our second year. I think May starts our second year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
All right, the Cougar Board question of the week. If you're not familiar with Cougar Board, it's the largest online community of BYU fans with thousands of posts daily. Some days they're all worked up, and some days maybe they're not as worked up. But in this tournament, they've been worked up. Here comes a question from Dilbert, one of their insider subscribers. What are the main things learned from spring ball? What are your biggest concerns going into the season? And what are you most confident and optimistic about? And I will segue this, Blaine, to the fact that Aaron Roderick, I think first and foremost, after spring practice ended on Saturday, said we're not going out to the portal to get another quarterback, which means he likes the ones that are here, which gives us confidence of like, okay, you went through spring drills with a new guy and a guy who has 4 starts, and you feel confident enough to go, one of these two is our guy.
Well, and it's not just that. I think he feels good about that. But they also could have gone to the transfer portal to get a young guy. And I think it also indicates that he's feeling good about the other guys that are young guys in the programs. I'll tell you who really came on in the last, I'm going to say 4 practices of spring ball, was Trayson Bourget.
Yeah.
The transfer. Remember, he's got 3 years to play.
He's from Ohio?
From Western Michigan.
Western Michigan, that's right.
So he has 3 years to play. He really looked good down the stretch. So Gary Bohannon, there are times when he's looked great. There's times when it looks like, he doesn't quite have the torque on the ball. He needs to be further removed from that shoulder surgery. Aaron Roderick mentioned that Retzlaff did throw a pick in all of spring ball. That's been the thing we've talked about. Yeah. Can he learn to take care of the ball? There were a few fumbles. He fumbled the ball a couple of times. They all fumbled the ball a couple of times, but they're getting better. So I think what that comment that no, we're not going to the portal tells you, not only does he feel like that he has somebody that can start this year, but he feels pretty good about Ryder Burton, Cade Finnegan. I think especially Trayson Bourget, who really came on and got a lot of reps at the end. That they're good for a couple of years, or they go out and get somebody right now, try to get a young guy in the portal. And so that was good news, I think.
That portal opens April 16th, stays open until the 30th. Fall camp late July. Season opener August 31st against Southern Illinois. We've got some NFL stuff. Let's table that for because I think there's a bunch of fun discussions in the draft and the Cougars, and that's still coming up.
Yeah,
but the NFL did announce that August 1st, which is just around the corner, is the Hall of Fame game between the Bears and the Texans. And when that game pops up, then there's football until the Super Bowl.
There's something to point. There's light at the end of the tunnel.
They said this year they're going to play 2 games on Christmas, which is different because Christmas is on a Wednesday.
Right.
So they're just going to go, guys, we're not missing out on that audience. You're going to miss out on some practice time.
That's right. The full schedule will be released next month. Then we can really start looking forward to it.
And how about those kickoff changes they're going to do?
It's interesting to me that they mess with timing rules to get things down, but they also do things to make the game more exciting, and special teams. In the NFL, think about it. Is there any kickoff returns in the last couple of years? Or do guys just kick it?
It's as boring as can be.
Yeah, they just kick it out of the back of the end zone every single solitary time.
So they're watching the XFL and they're going, you know what? They line up at the 40 5 yards away from the 35 where the return team is.
Right.
And then they kick it off, and they have to kick it between the 15-yard line and the goal line, and it's on.
There's kickoffs in the XFL. Like, that part of the game has been gone. The kickers are so strong that they just, why risk a return guy? Just kick it out of the back of the end zone every time. So now they're going to eliminate that.
Yeah.
So kickoffs are back
They're
in the
back,
game.
and they're different because they don't have a 30-yard run
Right.
before they can nail somebody, which is why they get rid of it for injuries.
Right.
They start 5 yards away from each other, so no one's really got a blaze of speed.
Right.
But some holes can open up.
They get engaged.
And now you want to sign a kickoff returner because you need them.
Because you need one.
So that's going to be interesting.
That's kind of fun.
Our final 4 picks, by the way.
Oh, my
Houston,
gosh.
Iowa State, North Carolina, and Creighton, they're all out.
Yeah, we were horrific.
So good luck. Good luck with all those.
Lots of folks picked UConn, so I'm not going to say that didn't happen, but who picked North Carolina State to be in this thing?
I don't know. I don't know of anyone. All I know is I beat my son Andrew and won a milkshake. That's all that matters. Women's hoops, by the way, Lauren Gustin's going to play this weekend. She's one of 20 seniors going to play in the College All-Star Game, 1:30 Mountain Saturday on ESPN2. Leading rebounder in the nation, finished her BYU career as the all-time leading rebounder. So we wish her the very best. She's been on the show a couple of times. Heading to the 2024 Women's College All-Star Game on Saturday. And Jimmer's in the news since we were last together.
Yes.
So he was officially named to the 3-on-3 team. So they're going to go to Paris and represent Team USA. And then there's a couple of games where Cougar fans in Phoenix can watch him play.
That's right. They're going to 2 exhibition games during Final Four weekend in Phoenix. The first is on Friday. That's an exhibition game against Puerto Rico at State Farm Stadium. The second is a modified game against Puerto Rico on Saturday during halftime of the second semifinal game.
How about the halftime show?
It's pretty
like
awesome.
The dunk team comes out, the 3-on-3 guys.
We finally see a BYU guy competing in the Final Four.
we finally made it.
That's right.
And are we shocked that it's Jimmer?
No,
Jimmer's the guy that finally got us to the Final Four.
Can we just all agree? I think we all do agree. Everybody that's listening to this show, that if Brandon Davies plays all the way through, that's a Final Four team with BYU.
Yeah, because it almost was without him.
Yeah. So
that's a tough one. Mr. Basketball, a wise guy shout out to Cooper Lewis.
Right.
He's the son of former BYU assistant coach Quincy Lewis. Dominated the state of Utah, led Lehigh to the state championship, which Quincy was the head coach. So the dad got to coach the son. Cooper's been crowned as Utah's Mr. Basketball by the Deseret News. I wrote a story about Cooper and his family back in January. You might want to check out at Deseret.com. But fantastic young kid, Mr. Basketball.
So cool. And how
Good
about
for him.
Congratulations, we'll throw congratulations out to Brody Kozlowski, Kristen, our colleague and dear friend, and her husband Travis. They're great friends. We've traveled with Kristen and Travis to the WCC tournament every year for it seems like our whole lives, but and done that. And she does a lot of stuff with us. But Brody is the 6A Player of the Year by the Deseret News. He's committed to USA today, or to USC. It'll be interesting. Today, USC's coach took the job at SMU.
Yeah.
So, and I haven't talked to Kristen today. Brody's got to figure out what he wants to do with this.
I texted him the other night when it sounded like the coach was going to go. And so his options are, with every new college basketball, high school kid rating, his rating goes up.
Oh, yeah.
And so he's going to have the pick of where he wants to go.
Wherever he wants to go. It's interesting,
including SMU.
There's parts of things that bring you to a place because of the program, but I would say mostly you go to play for a coach.
Yeah, for sure.
And I know that Brody really loved that staff at USC. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. We'll need to get a hold of Kristen and find out. He's a great player. Campus notes,
track and field, that outdoor season, by the way, the new rankings are out. The women moved up 18 spots to number 4 in the country and the highest in the Big 12. And the men's team, they were ranked 6, and they dropped 13 spots to 19. So they kind of flip-flopped in the new poll. And this week, the Cougars are competing at the Triton Invitational in San Diego, the Weber State Spring Open in Ogden, and the Utah Spring Classic in Salt Lake. So they got athletes going everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere there could be. Men's volleyball. Just getting to this. 15-7, 6-4. Concordia came in. Number 7 BYU swept matches on Friday and Saturday 3-0. This week, BYU's at USC Friday and Saturday. That's a regular season finale. And the MPSF tournament is at USC in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough for them to get to the NCAAs because the MPSF is so good.
It's the best league, and it's the SEC of volleyball, right? So
they need to expand, and I think they're going to next year, the NCAA tournament for volleyball.
When I say they're the SEC of volleyball, meaning they're what the SEC is in football, in volleyball. That was a little confusing.
I'll be honest, though. Alabama's totally surprised me in the big dance.
In basketball?
It's like, when did they get
We were
good?
talking about that yesterday. We're going, when did Alabama become a basketball school?
Yeah, well, they are now. Women's volleyball, we congratulate Coach Heather Olmstead. She's been named head coach of the USA National Under-21 team this summer. So she'll be getting Team USA ready.
Awesome. Baseball, we talked a little baseball. 11-13, 4-8. Kansas swept the Cougars 3-0 at Miller Park. The Jayhawks just had a little bit. They were a little bit better in every.
They were
aspect.
just better.
More pitching, fielding, hitting.
Yeah.
This week, BYU is at Texas.
That's
Thursday
the good
through
news.
Saturday. Yeah.
Bounce back to Texas.
Yeah. All games will be on the Longhorn Network and BYU Radio.
Softball's 20-13,
You're not
4-8
traveling
in
with
the
them to
league.
do that, right?
No,
Okay.
no.
So.
No. The Cougars beat Houston 2-1 in that series. Hunter Ava won the series with a grand slam at the bottom of the ninth on Friday, and the final score was 17-15. It was spectacular, high drama, bases loaded. They're down 2, and she comes up. It's a line drive home run.
Number 7 play of the day on SportsCenter.
I hope so. It should have been.
It was in the top 10. I think it was the number 7 play of the day.
Jason Shepard, our colleague, was on the call. Did a great job.
Pretty fun.
This week, Utah Tech's at BYU tomorrow. Miller Park, 5 o'clock, Mountain, ESPN Plus. Weather's supposed to be nice, unlike today. And then they're off to Orlando, play 3 with UCF Thursday through Saturday on ESPN Plus.
Good. You don't have a game to call Wednesday night, do you?
No.
Oh, I have an idea then. Talk to you later.
Okay.
Gymnastics. The NCAA Championships, BYU against Boise State. Wednesday, April 3rd in the Arkansas Regional. The winner advances into the bracket with number 2 LSU, number 15 Minnesota, and Oregon State on Thursday.
So they're kind of in the play-in.
Yeah.
Play-in of a regional.
It's like the first 4.
Yeah, like the first 4. Men's golf last week won the Bridgestone Collegiate with Cooper Jones taking the individual title. Then they went and placed 6th at the Goodwin in Palo Alto. The Western Collegiate's coming up in a couple of weeks, April 15th through the 17th in Santa Cruz, California.
Yeah, and the women play at the Texas Showdown at SMU April 8th through the 9th down in Dallas, Texas.
Men's tennis, 11-7. They're 0-4 in the Big 12. Big 12's good, in case you were wondering.
Yeah.
This week they're at TCU and then at UCF. So TCU Thursday, UCF on Saturday.
Well, and women's tennis, by the way, I went to the matches on Saturday. They're 14-4, 6-3. Last week they defeated Baylor and TCU.
Yeah.
Both at home. And these are, Baylor was a ranked team, a top 30 team. This week, BYU's at number 22, Oklahoma, Thursday, and at number 7, Texas on Saturday.
Big week.
BYU has really, I think this women's tennis team has been played above expectations. Holly came on the show last week. She got the good karma. They sweep the 2 Texas teams at home.
I'm surprised she didn't come back in here tonight.
I talked to her. I told her to come every week. She said she might come every week if it gives her that kind of luck. But she said for years she's been trying to get this level of competition to come to Provo, and nobody will do it.
No.
And she says this is the advantage of the Big 12. They have to come play here. She says there's a real advantage to playing at elevation here, and it makes a big difference. And they could have, some bigger wins historically if they could have got these teams in. She's so thrilled that they're in the Big 12 and they're playing well. How fun was this week where they sweep those 2 Texas teams?
And think about it for football this year. Oklahoma State comes for the first time. Kansas State comes for the first time. Kansas comes for the first time. Those guys would have never come.
No. And guess what? BYU has a huge home field advantage. When those teams come up and play at elevation with this crazy crowd, BYU's got a chance. And so it's fun. And you don't get that without the Big 12. Tennis is experiencing it. Football's experiencing it. Hey, BYU basketball experienced it in the Marriott Center this year. Really fun.
Let's head down the home stretch on this day, April 1st. And these are all legit, even though it is April 1st.
Yeah.
We're not toying with
throwing
folks.
some April Fool's thing out there. So
1905 on this day.
Right. SOS is adopted as Morse distress signal by the German government.
When did ABBA sing their song? The year later?
I don't Not 1905.
Yeah, well, they've been around.
Yeah.
1930, Cubs catcher, Leon Harnett. By the way, the Cubs won today in their home opener. But on this day in 1930, Cubs catcher Leon Harnett breaks the altitude record for a catch. The ball was dropped 800 feet from the Goodyear blimp in Los Angeles, and he caught it with his catcher's mitt.
That thing had to be moving. I mean, once it reaches a certain speed, I guess it just levels out, right? But
it wasn't high enough for it to catch fire.
How do you judge it? That's
he got
crazy.
it. He made the catch.
So, 1960, the world's first weather satellite is launched.
Think how that's changed our world.
Yeah, now China floats them over the United States all the time.
Every now and then a balloon just pops in. We're like, that doesn't look natural.
Yeah, that's not right.
1963, General Hospital premieres on ABC. It went forever. Remember, my mom would watch that show, General Hospital. And they'd start singing songs about it.
Yeah, good. Well,
Luke and Laura, wasn't that General Hospital, or was that one of the others?
For his wife. Something, I don't know. There was a song about it.
Yeah.
Okay. 1979, Nickelodeon debuts on U.S. cable systems.
So have we had SpongeBob around for that long?
No, I don't think SpongeBob was part of the original.
Think he popped in later?
I think he came up later, yeah.
2016, on this day, the Celtics beat the Warriors to snap Golden State's NBA record 54-game home winning streak.
That is remarkable.
54 games against professionals.
Yeah.
That's
what
nice.
Steph Curry can do.
Level.
That's what Steph Curry can do for you. So, April 1st birthdays. 1932, Debbie Reynolds.
How long has Steph Curry been playing?
Oh, I don't know.
That was 8 years ago.
He's been around.
He's been around. Has he been in Golden State all the time?
When did he come out? I'll look it up while you're doing the next one.
April 1st, birthdays. Debbie Reynolds, 1932. I met her when she opened up her casino in Vegas. That was my brush with fame. And Phil Necro, 1939. And what did he introduce that no one else could quite do just like him?
That guy could throw a knuckler like nobody's business.
The knuckleball from Phil Necro.
Well, Steph is 36 years old. So
he'd have been 28. Yeah, he'd have been playing there.
He'd been playing a little bit. Let's see when he got drafted. Is he the greatest shooter in history?
Seems like it.
I feel like we got to give him maybe that. So he was drafted.
Although that dude for Alabama that made 7 threes the other night, that was next level.
2009 draft, first round, 7th pick overall, Golden State Warriors. So,
all right, so he was part of that.
That's all you needed to know about Steph Curry. So
April 1st deaths, 1984, Marvin Gaye.
Yeah,
passed away on this day.
He's a so full.
Hey, our Wise Guys inspirational quote of the week comes from John Bytheway, who, by the way, was our guest earlier tonight.
And he was awesome. So his special quote of the day is, "Go and do. Don't sit and stew."
Think about that.
Yeah.
Go and do. Don't sit and stew.
So
make your life. Make. Yeah.
Hey, can you educate us all a little bit about April Fool's Day? Can you give us a little education on that?
I was sitting there going, why are we even in this day? Well, according to the Museum of Hoaxes,
I didn't know there was a museum of hoaxes.
There's a Museum of Hoaxes. Just you can Google it. The number one April Fool's hoax of all time was in 1957 when a BBC television program aired a segment about how the Swiss are growing their pasta on trees. And it was a bumper crop, and the Brits just literally ate it up. Because, TV was new, and so they're like, what? It has to be true. It's on TV.
That's crazy.
And a BBC show, and I saw some of it, and they showed pictures of pasta growing on trees in Switzerland, and that was part of the thing.
That was
So according to the Museum of Hoaxes, that's number one.
Number one of all time.
Of all time. It trumps all the hoaxes of a young wife telling her husband that she's expecting twins.
Well... And what about people short sheeting beds and doing all that kind of stuff? All that kind of stuff. Yeah. When was that show about the invasion from Mars? That must not have been an April Fool's thing.
I thought that was I thought that was like a New Year's thing.
Oh, was it?
War of the Worlds or something?
Yeah.
No, a Halloween thing. I thought it was a Halloween thing.
Okay.
It freaked a lot of people out.
Because I think that would be one of the greatest hoaxes of all time. But
hey.
And just a reminder, Kalani did not step down because that was a hoax.
That was a hoax.
So,
thanks to John, by the way, who was awesome, and Mike Littlewood, who was fantastic. They took us both into their worlds.
Yes.
Which are different worlds, but very much a part of all of our worlds.
Yeah. Really fun.
And look for the podcast with those two guys and clips on YouTube throughout the week.
Hey, next week, offensive line coach TJ was so excited to get. I've been watching him work. And
remember what Connor Pay said about him? He's like a game changer.
Fun to have here. Baseball players Keanu Painter and Kahil Aloy.
These are two young Hawaiians that grew up in the same ward over in Maui. As I've heard the story, we're going to get them out here, and they'll be settling into some home games next week. And so we thought let's have them on the show and get their story.
Hey, and
couple of fun guys.
Everyone out there, don't forget we talked about John. Did John say that he's at 50 books? Maybe
it's over 50.
Over 50 books. My goodness.
Between he and I, that's like 51.
Let's not forget about Dave's one book.
That's one and done
because it's timeless. There's a legend behind every letter, as we say. Your copy today, you can order it at DeseretBook.com, Seagull Book, the BYU store, and Amazon.
And hey,
C is for Cougar.
If you've gone into the BYU store and they're not there, they're ordering more. I got the word today, so be patient. I'm going to be on Sports Nation Wednesday through Friday of this week. Are you on any of those days?
Not this week.
What are you taking, the spring break or what?
Sometimes, though, I get a call and they go,
emergency call.
Can you come on tomorrow morning? And because we're going to talk about this. And so I might be on with you toward the end of the week. I don't know. We're going to see.
So nice to have everybody on our live stream from all over the world. And we wanted to do more call outs tonight. Sorry we didn't. We were just so engaged with our guests. We hope you enjoyed them. And again, look for the podcast out tomorrow and our clips on YouTube. And remember to like us on YouTube and see if you can get your friends to like us too there. That'll help us grow the show.
Yeah, we like you, so you need to like us.
Yeah, and remember, any of you are potential guests on this show. And I'm looking at you, Scott Mackey, and
what about Ruthie, 5358?
And Michael, and all of, and let's see, all of you are game. That's how John got on the show. So
that's right.
We look forward to having all of you participate with us on the Wise Guys. Blaine Fowler, Dave McCann, for all of us. Have an awesome week. Can you believe it's April?
I can't. See you next week.